A fierce red dragon-like beast looms with menacing purple energy over a white-haired figure. The bearded man kneels, desperately pleading for someone to slay the terrifying wyvern. The white-haired woman, identified as Sword Saint, faces the danger with a stern expression amidst fiery chaos. The white-haired woman's blue eyes focus intently, her internal thoughts beginning to form. The fearsome red beast unleashes a powerful, glowing orb attack. People scream, "A breath attack!" fleeing in terror as the powerful beast attacks while the white-haired woman stands firm. The white-haired woman moves swiftly as a red energy slash cuts through the air, stunning the onlookers. A powerful force sweeps across the land, leaving swirling light and scattered debris in its wake. The white-haired woman stands victoriously on the defeated red beast, calmly stating, "It's taken care of now." A moment of artistic transition featuring delicate roses and faint, ghostly dragon imagery. The beautiful white-haired woman, Sword Saint Rhea, gazes thoughtfully, surrounded by delicate white roses. The desolate, cracked earth mirrors her reflection on how she lived and died in her past life. The cloaked Rhea stands with her sword, acknowledged by the kneeling, bearded man as the Sword Saint. People cheer, hailing the Sword Saint, the strongest sword master and one of the 4 grandmasters. Astrea, the white-haired woman, stands amidst glowing lilies as unseen voices hail her. Over a quiet table scene, an unseen speaker observes that the Sword Saint has recently changed. 2 men in a tavern remark on Rhea's new mercenary ways, noting she now charges for help and ignores pleas. The cloaked Rhea listens as a voice observes she now hints at wanting payment. Rhea smirks, affirming she is no longer the pushover Rhea she used to be. Rhea is depicted majestically in a white hooded cloak, holding her sword. Rhea's selfless past, helping others without reward, earned her the title the Sword Saint of Humble Poverty. Distressed villagers plead for the Sword Saint's help against bandits, while Rhea internally notes her past willingness to help. Rhea devoted her entire being to helping others, but now, with past life memories returned, she refuses to live that way. A blue-haired young man sits huddled in a dark room as the narrator reveals his past life was also unpleasant. A hand rests on a mug as the speaker laments having lived miserably without money in their past life. Cloaked Rhea walks through the tavern, lamenting that she's still living the same miserable way. Cloaked Rhea enters, and the brown-haired woman greets her, asking about dinner. Cloaked Rhea instructs not to prepare dinner today. In a lavish room, Rhea sits amidst shopping bags, reflecting on filling a void with purchases. Rhea lies on a sofa, bored, sighing that even shopping has become uninteresting. A large bald man grabs a black-haired girl who cries, "Please just stop," while he aggressively tells her to mind her own business. A violent struggle unfolds, as desperate voices cry out, "Darling, no, and my daughter, no, please." Rhea sits in reflection, admitting that bad memories sometimes drag her down, but finds solace that at least her mother was okay. Rhea, in a cute chibi style, makes finger hearts, radiating positive energy. Rhea, having surpassed human limits, now possesses abundant time and money. Rhea smiles confidently in a stylish new outfit, thinking this isn't bad and as expected of me. Rhea smiles confidently, adjusting her choker, and declares, "All right." Under a starry night sky, Rhea contemplates going for a hike today in the tranquil village. Rhea stands with crossed arms, eyes closed, seemingly exasperated. A strong hand clamps down on an arm as the grabbed individual furiously exclaims, "You filthy blood."
A large, bald man forcefully seizes a dark-haired boy, announcing his execution, but the boy demands to be released. Cloaked Rhea sighs, observing the commotion from above, wondering why she cannot simply walk away. As the men look on, Rhea observes, reminding herself that she did bring her sword. A person yelps, "Ack!" in pain as their hand is bitten by another. Cloaked Rhea stands in a dark forest, facing the large, silhouetted figures. Zap, zap! The men are struck by purple lightning, falling as Rhea's blue eye glows with power. A hand firmly grips another, radiating purple energy in a powerful display. Rhea tells the large, bald man and the boy that she tries to avoid involvement after saving the wrong people. The large, bald man, now joined by a purple-skinned man, angrily demands Rhea identify herself or face their attack.
Surrounded by glowing energy, Rhea thinks to herself that she isn't even being given a chance as a rhythmic tadak sound echoes. Rhea holds her sword, deciding not to draw it because she cannot simply kill the black-haired boy. With a sound like puff, Rhea stands over several defeated men, blood splattering, her powerful display of force evident. The black-haired boy looks terrified, unable to complete his word monst, as he stares in shock. Rhea stands under a moonlit sky, her long white hair flowing as she rests her sword over her shoulder. The large, bald man lies on the ground, injured, angrily complaining about the damned brat. Rhea, with a stern expression, considers if she should just kill them for being so persistent, while unseen voices angrily declare, "Filthy blood," and "Seed of evil." Rhea is comically surprised, internally questioning why they are talking about a seed of evil, as the narration hints at a crucial, unmentioned detail. A silhouette of a man stands against a grand, patterned background, as the narration reveals Rhea is not the protagonist of the story. Rhea's hand is held by a shadowy figure as the narration explains she is merely a supporting character, the master who teaches the true protagonist how to wield a sword and inspires his revenge against the evil god. A long, black-haired man with a cruel smile is depicted as the reincarnation of the evil god, destined to kill Rhea. Against a backdrop of thorny red vines, the narration identifies this being as the one once called the Seed of Evil. The black-haired boy, looking distraught, acknowledges the term the Seed of Evil. Rhea looks at the black-haired boy as the narration states she is fated to be killed by the Seed of Evil in the future. A sword falls to the ground and Rhea stares, utterly disbelieving her fate and the revelation. A large hand extends over swirling patterns, as text explains that in the world of Legend Sword, two gods exist, created by the primordial god with powers of yin and yang. The two opposing forces are revealed as the good divine god, Shiner, and the evil god, Cassian, both depicted in ornate frames. Cracks spread across the surface, as the narration reveals that one day, the evil god broke this balance. A desolate, fiery landscape with glowing lava rivers is shown, as the narration somberly states that the divine god died. The first Holy King, Azrael, clad in armor, is introduced along with four shadowy figures, his distant predecessors, as the Seed of Evil emerged after the divine god's death.
Azrael is seen fighting the long, black-haired evil god in the sky, as they successfully defeat him. The defeated, bloodied evil god lies wounded, but the narration warns that they overlooked an important fact. Surrounded by glowing blue flowers, the truth is revealed. The evil god, through endless reincarnations, would be reborn. A tiny, dark-haired baby with red eyes is shown, confirming the narration that the evil god would be reborn. The dark-haired boy looks up, questioning if that child is indeed the reincarnation of the evil god. Rhea kneels before the large, bald man, demanding proof for his claims. Rhea, looking weary, listens as the large, bald man wildly claims the boy attacked his foster father and will become great evil, but Rhea dismisses such baseless talk. Rhea, her blue eyes sharp, asks if they saw the mark, and when the large, bald man hesitates, she questions if they were going to execute the boy immediately without proof. Rhea, her hand near her sword, states that the church doesn't offer rewards for such deeds, as narration reveals the first Holy King Azrael made a prophecy. Against an ornate golden pattern, the prophecy states that in the year 658 of the Chinese calendar, the reincarnation of the evil god will bring about the end of the world.
Fiery images and text explain that because of this prophecy, children born during that period were often unjustly accused and hunted as witches. Rhea stands with her back to the viewer, her thoughts wondering what crime those children committed, noting they couldn't have known they were born as the evil god. Rhea looks at the dark-haired boy, calling him Kid. Rhea smiles warmly, introducing herself as Rhea, Sword Saint Estrella, and asks the boy his name. The dark-haired boy looks shocked, asking why she wants his name, while a chibi Rhea comically scrutinizes a chibi version of the boy. Rhea playfully warns she'll keep calling him Kid if he doesn't tell her, and after his exasperated outburst, the boy finally reveals his name. The dark-haired boy, looking up defiantly, proudly states, "My name is Sigrian." Rhea looks stunned, her internal thoughts reeling in disbelief at the boy's name.
Rhea's eyes glow with power as she narrates about her newly gained insight ability, allowing her to perceive the essence of all things and see the evil god's mark.
Rhea stares with a shocked and concerned expression, exclaiming, "My God." Sigrian's back is partially visible as Rhea, eyes glowing, internally wonders if he truly is the seed of evil. Sigrian stands next to Rhea, looking up at her and asking, "Rhea?" Rhea smiles nervously, confessing that while she said she wouldn't eat dinner, she now asks if Sigrian could make her some. Sigrian looks tearful, with a sniff, as Rhea makes her dinner request. A warm fireplace with crackling flames is shown in a domestic setting. A close-up shows Sigrian happily eating bread, crumbs on his face. Rhea sits in a chair, observing Sigrian eating bread on the floor, thinking that she brought him here in a rush. Sigrian happily eats bread on the floor, while Rhea internally ponders what she should do with him. A fragmented scene of a battle between the main character and Sigrian, resulting in destruction, leads to Rhea's determined thought that she can't let that happen to the world she fought to protect. Rhea sits confidently, her long white hair flowing, as a shadowy figure stands behind her, a thought bubble revealing she has been living and guarding this world for 100 years. Rhea, with a wound on her cheek, is depicted in battle, her long white hair flowing, as text describes her fighting endlessly. Rhea stands under a somber, rainy sky, before a gravestone with lit candles, her back to the viewer, lamenting the loss of precious people. Rhea sits elegantly in a lavish room, while the dark-haired boy, Sigrian, sits on the floor holding something. Narration states the evil god is currently in a sealed state. Sigrian kneels on the ornate rug, seemingly being purified by Rhea's presence, as narration instructs to purify his inner power. Rhea stands determinedly, her hand near an obscured figure, as narration presents the stark choice: purify him or kill him. A hand gently clasps another's arm as a speech bubble begins. "Hey, Sigrian confesses to Rhea that he attacked his foster father due to daily beatings, promises never to repeat it, and offers to clean and cook. Sigrian cries desperately, pleading with Rhea to take him with her and not to leave, wishing she would stay like a mom. A young, dark-haired girl cries out, "Mom!" with a distressed expression, reaching out as a static-like effect distorts the image. The upper panel shows sparkling darkness, while the lower panel depicts a woman with long, reddish-brown hair standing by a cozy fireplace, observing Sigrian eating bread on the floor. Rhea calls out, "Sigrian!" startling the dark-haired boy who looks up at her with bread still in his mouth. Rhea looks thoughtful in profile, asking Sigrian if he will truly do everything she says. Sigrian's bare feet are visible on the patterned rug as his hand rests on a small object, while Rhea's feet stand nearby. Sigrian looks directly at Rhea, confirming his agreement with a simple yes. Rhea internally speculates that in the original timeline, Sigrian was consumed by the evil god because no one tolerated him. Rhea kneels before Sigrian, gently touching his head, telling him to stay with her, as he objects to being called a kid. Rhea smiles playfully, asking Sigrian what he is if not a kid, and internally resolves to raise him well so he doesn't go astray. Rhea embraces Sigrian, hoping internally that he can live together with people. Sigrian sits up in bed next to a sleeping Rhea, gazing intently at her. Sigrian, still in bed, thinks about Rhea finally falling asleep and laments that his current state as an avatar is a disgrace for the evil god. Sigrian, with glowing red eyes, thinks of the lowly divine god Shiner preventing him from acting, and then whispers "Sword Saint" as Rhea sleeps beside him. Sigrian looks down at the sleeping Rhea with a subtle sneer, contemplating whether he should just kill her. Sigrian, with intense glowing red eyes, observes the sleeping sword Saintess. Rhea abruptly opens her eyes and sits up, startling Sigrian, who gasps, realizing she sensed his energy and quickly deciding to act like a clone. Rhea's profile is visible as she drowsily asks, "Yeah, you're awake?" Sigrian, with a confused expression, turns his head and asks, "What was that?" Chibi Rhea is depicted comically snoring in her sleep, while a chibi Sigrian looks annoyed, realizing she was just talking in her sleep. Sigrian, relieved, thinks he almost got caught, muses that Rhea wouldn't be sleeping soundly if she knew his true identity, and resolves to put her under a spell as a precaution. Sigrian's intense red eye is shown in a small panel as he sternly reminds himself to be careful. Sigrian, sitting by a fireplace, mentally notes that he has only recovered about 10% of his strength and is actively suppressing it to avoid detection by the Celestials. Sigrian, lying next to Rhea in bed, quietly pleads for her not to leave. Sigrian looks up at Rhea with tearful eyes, asking her to stay with him because he's scared. Sigrian, eyes glowing red, realizes that the Sword Saintess is so powerful that even a dream demon cannot possess her. A close-up shows black feathery wings and glowing chains, while narration introduces the source of all life. A red-horned woman and a purple-horned man with black wings hold a dark orb, as narration explains that black ether is the source of evil. The red-horned woman and purple-horned man are shown embracing Rhea, as purple energy appears to be seeping out of the Sword Saintess. A smirking Sigrian, with glowing red eyes, believes Rhea is an offering prepared just for him, as the horned figures continue to hold Rhea amidst swirling energy. A close-up of Sigrian's smirking, red-eyed face, surrounded by dark energy, reveals his thought that Rhea is perfect for regaining his power. A hand presses on Rhea's bare shoulder, radiating dark energy, as Sigrian declares he will wring every last drop from her. Sigrian leans over Rhea in bed, thinking that once his strength is fully restored, Sigrian, with glowing red eyes and a cruel smile, leans over Rhea, declaring his intent to kill her. Sigrian looks distressed, realizing that damned time is upon him, a panel emphasizing his glowing red eye. Rhea and Sigrian are shown in bed together, with Rhea raising an arm above her head. Bright sunlight streams through a checkered window, indicating the arrival of morning. Sigrian sits up in bed, clutching his head in shock, his eyes wide. Sigrian, utterly surprised, questions why he was sleeping next to Rhea, wondering about his location yesterday. Sigrian, with a chained wrist, struggles against Rhea in bed, protesting that he won't sleep with her because he's over 100 years old, while Rhea counters, asking if he expects an old woman like her to sleep on the floor. Rhea smiles down at Sigrian, stating she doesn't like that arrangement and that he should be sleeping in a good bed, eating nourishing food to grow strong. Rhea looks down at Sigrian with a soft expression, stating that this is how she will treat him. Sigrian stares upward with glowing red eyes, a solemn expression on his face. Sigrian, with teary red eyes, peeks over a blanket, appearing timid. Rhea, startled in bed, listens as Sigrian asserts he is 12, not a little kid, prompting her to question his age. Rhea asks if he's not 10, and Sigrian from an unseen location loudly insists, "I said 12. Chibi Rhea and Sigrian, with cat ears, react as Rhea mentally calculates the current year as 670, noting the prophecy was in 658. Rhea, observing Sigrian's angry tiny form, confirms her earlier thought that he is indeed very small. Rhea sternly informs Sigrian, who is still lying in bed, that at 12 he lacks table manners, etiquette, and respect, and has many things to learn. Rhea pulls the covers over Sigrian, declaring they need more sleep for his growth, as Sigrian angrily protests, "You're pissing me off." Sigrian, imagining his future self as a handsome, rich man, confidently tells Rhea not to fall for him, while Rhea encourages his fiery spirit from a luxurious room. Sigrian clutches his head in shame, realizing he fell asleep on his own like a baby. Sigrian yawns, stirring in bed and looking away from Rhea, with a rustling sound. Rhea remarks that Sigrian slept like a rock as he gasps, asking if she's awake, secretly embarrassed. Rhea gently tells Sigrian that he should say good morning to her. Rhea insists Sigrian say good morning, ma'am, and be polite, calling him Sig, but Sigrian internally objects to the nickname and the politeness. Rhea asks what she should call Sigrian if not Sig, while the boy pauses thoughtfully. Sigrian, with a slight blush, looks up at Rhea and asks her to call him Cian. Rhea stands commandingly, surrounded by purple energy, ordering Sigrian to speak to her respectfully, while a lower panel shows her smiling at his annoyed expression. Rhea, with a determined expression, explains to Sigrian that learning manners and respect is crucial for living properly and growing into a good person. Rhea, emanating a powerful aura with glowing blue eyes, warns Sigrian against disrespecting her again, leaving him shocked by her imposing presence. Sigrian protests that he shouldn't use honorifics given their similar apparent ages, then attempts to flee, but Rhea, in her dark cloak, declares she is coming with him. Sigrian peeks out from behind a door, panicked, discovering it's stuck and won't open. A glowing blue magical circle on the floor confirms Sigrian's fear that the door is locked from the outside. Sigrian's wide, tearful red eyes stare in distress, as a soft whoosh sounds. Rhea's stern, blue-eyed face is superimposed with her earlier demands that Sigrian learn manners and speak respectfully. Sigrian, looking anxious, wonders if the confinement is punishment for simply expressing his dislike. Sigrian repeatedly bangs on the door, tearfully admitting his fault and pleading with Rhea not to abandon him, with a tapping sound. Sigrian desperately calls out Rhea's name as the magical barrier on the door glows intensely. A small, purple-haired chibi witch sits on a branch next to a cup of tea in a brightly lit, leafy setting.
Man with long golden hair, dressed in white and gold robes, sips tea elegantly, bathed in warm sunlight in a luxurious room. A speech bubble, framed by ornate golden patterns, indicates a voice stating, "You're here early."
The golden-haired man smiles gently as he sips his tea, adorned with intricate golden details. Rhea, cloaked, expresses surprise, recognizing the golden-haired man as Sefer while he looks away. The golden-haired man, Saphir, seated at a table, remarks on Rhea's cold reaction to his presence. Rhea's angry thought bubble reveals her frustration at having to leave her child to attend this meeting. Rhea, in her cloak, abruptly declares she is busy and will leave if Sefer has nothing relevant to say. Sefer, with a subtle smile, informs Rhea that she has received a revelation. Saphir reveals the revelation is related to the evil god, while Rhea listens with a serious expression, her blue eyes sharp. Sefer is identified by narration as the proxy of the good god, Shanel. Narration identifies Saphir as the current holy king, as hands hold a white ceremonial garment. The holy king, Saphir, appears in divine golden robes, but Rhea internally cautions herself not to be swayed by his looks, knowing he is cunning. Saphir invites Rhea to sit and listen, as she looks up at him from her standing position. Rhea, looking distressed, internally affirms that she only formed an alliance with Sefer because their goals aligned. Sefer suggests Rhea is being harsh and playfully invites her to sit closer, but Rhea sharply tells him to get to the point, to which he sighs in resignation. Sefer foretells the appearance of a new star in the eastern sky in 4 years, signaling a hero who will receive the good god's power to defeat a great evil, showing an armored figure with large white wings. Sefer instructs Sword Saint Astrea Rhea that she shall become the master of this great hero. Sefer continues, stating that Rhea must pass on everything she knows to the hero, and after her mission is complete, Sefer reveals Rhea's ultimate fate, death by the hands of one corrupted by evil, accompanied by a graphic image of a bloodied chest. Rhea, cloaked, and Sefer, the Holy King, sit formally at a table, facing each other. Rhea, with a serious expression, realizes that today was the day Sefer would deliver this prophecy, while he maintains a calm demeanor. Rhea, with wide blue eyes, is held close by a dark-haired figure amidst a bed of red roses as she contemplates her preordained fate. Rhea, cloaked, is approached by Sefer, the golden-haired man, who gently places his hand on her shoulder in a bright, opulent room. Sefer, the golden-haired man, conveys that fate can be twisted if one accepts his protection as he gestures towards his chest. Rhea internally considers Sefer's capabilities, while a cosmic vision explains that the good god couldn't find the evil god's incarnation due to the absolute law of causality. A chained hand, presumably Rhea's, is shown against a starry backdrop with roses, as narration reveals that order stood in the way of discovery. Rhea's thoughts affirm that the good god only knew the incarnation's birth year, emphasizing that even the good god has limits. As Rhea stands in a cosmic void, a hand reaches for her, signaling that her protection will end when she passes on her knowledge to the hero with a striking KRA crack sound. Sephir, the golden-haired man, looks reflective amidst swirling cosmic energy, as narration notes he was unaware of the original story when he made his offer. Rhea, in a luxurious room, internally refuses Sephir's offer, confident she can complete her mission alone and fearing Cian's discovery if she accepts. Rhea, cloaked, departs, declaring her intention to leave, her gold-sandaled feet visible on the tiled floor with a soft shuffle. Rhea, cloaked, walks with a determined stride, a crisp tap sounding with her step. Sephir gently takes Rhea's hand, remarking that she is being uncharacteristically emotional amidst a backdrop of green leaves and white flowers. Sephir, the golden-haired man, gazes intently, bathed in bright light, as white flowers bloom in the foreground. Rhea's cloaked figure hurries up the stairs, a tadadak of footsteps accompanying her thought that she is later than she thought. Chibi Rhea fumes, annoyed at being delayed, while two Chibi Sephirs cry and urge her to accept protection. Rhea, cloaked, returns home, hearing a bell crack as she acknowledges being late and recalls setting a magic circle to keep Cian safe, but questions its effectiveness. Rhea is stunned, gasping with wide blue eyes and a hand covering her mouth against a striped background. Rhea looks down into a disheveled room, wondering, what in the world? Rhea rushes to the dark-haired boy Cian, asking what happened, and then notices his bruised hands with concern. Rhea reassures a distressed Cian that she will heal his injuries with a potion. Rhea, cloaked, gently embraces a shaking Cian, pulling him close with a rustling sound. Rhea holds Cian, whose voice is heard saying, "The door!" Rhea embraces a crying Cian, who tearfully explains the door wouldn't open and he thought she abandoned him because of his misbehavior. Cian clutches his chest in distress as Rhea, cloaked, sits by a fireplace, realizing his panic stemmed from thinking she left him. Rhea recalls a prophecy about herself, pondering that it's possible the incarnation of evil will approach you. Rhea and Sephir hold hands, as Rhea thinks that winning her over would be more beneficial to the evil incarnation than killing her, with a light grip sound. Sephir, the golden-haired man, tenderly touches Rhea's face as they gaze at each other in a bright, ethereal light. Rhea, cloaked, holds Cian close, internally admitting she couldn't deny the truth of Sephir's prediction. Rhea, with long white hair, stands with Cian, the dark-haired boy, in a dimly lit, somber forest clearing. Rhea's hand gently holds Cian's small hand, as she reflects that she couldn't coldly refuse his touch, which reminded her of her own childhood. Rhea, cloaked, comforts Cian with soft pats on his back, apologizing for leaving without an explanation. Rhea internally explains that the magic circle, set to protect Cian from a keen sense of smell, inadvertently hurt him by trapping him inside. Rhea, cloaked, holds Cian and tells him to listen carefully, with a soft movement sound. Rhea, with striking blue eyes and long white hair, gazes intently, surrounded by delicate blue floral patterns. Cian, the dark-haired boy with red eyes, looks up with a timid and vulnerable expression, framed by blue floral patterns. Rhea asks Cian, the dark-haired boy, what he's been thinking, and he shyly responds with a sniffle, "Yes." Rhea, cloaked, smiles warmly at Cian, the dark-haired boy, as she gently places her hand on his shoulder amidst lush greenery. Rhea's hands gently hold Cian's, as she thinks about how to provide the right environment for him to grow up well. In a cozy, book-lined room, Rhea asks Cian if he prefers mountains or the sea. Cian, the dark-haired boy, hesitates with a subtle smirk before replying, "I?" Rhea, cloaked, gazes thoughtfully out a window, mentally noting her preference for somewhere without people. Rhea, with long white hair and a blue dress, stands with crossed arms, looking down at an annoyed Cian. Rhea contemplates a remote house in the middle of a lake, requiring a boat and located in a monster habitat, wondering if it's too much. Chibi Rhea, exasperated with tiny red horns, thinks the crazy, stingy guy who sold the house cheaply, later identified as Jenny, was right to do so. Rhea, covering her face in exasperation, mutters that the red-haired Jenny will be dead next time she sees her, as Cian looks on. Cian, the dark-haired boy, questions Rhea about how anyone can live in such a desolate place. Cyan complains that the house is unclean, unfurnished, and, despite a barrier, directly adjacent to a monster habitat. Rhea, with a knowing smile, inwardly calls Cyan a little brat for finding the house less comfortable than an inn, despite her efforts. Cyan, the dark-haired boy, clutches his chest and arm, looking uneasy with trembling and discomfort. Rhea, with a soft smile, realizes Cyan is uneasy, worried she'll take the house back, and thinks he struggles to be honest. Rhea gently pats Cyan's head, reassuring him that they can simply buy furniture for the house. Rhea smiles warmly, gently patting Cyan's head, explaining that the house isn't that bad, and that this is going to be the house we live in together, after all. Cyan looks at the distant house, pondering Rhea's words about the house we... The beautiful house stands by a shimmering blue lake, and a close-up reveals Cyan's eyes sparkling with awe. Chibi Rhea playfully pats Chibi Cyan's head, thinking he is so cute. Chibi Rhea continues to pat Chibi Cyan's head, making him look annoyed as she thinks, oops. Cyan turns away, asserting that he is not a kid. Cyan rushes away while Rhea wonders if 12 isn't still a kid. Cyan then calls out, urging Rhea to start cleaning right away if they want to finish today, to which she agrees. Cyan gestures excitedly towards the house from a distance, while Rhea follows him up the lush green path. Cyan stands on a stool, enthusiastically holding a feather duster amidst a wall of bookshelves. Rhea, with wide blue eyes, carefully holds a glowing glass lantern in her hands with a soft thud. Rhea stretches, happily exclaiming, "Finally done!" after cleaning 5 rooms, while Cyan stands nearby, wiping his face with a towel with a tapping sound. Rhea turns, declaring it's time to go shopping, as a purple magic portal shimmers into existence beside her with a whoosh, startling Cyan with a gasp. Rhea smiles slyly, gesturing with her hands as she explains the shimmering purple distortion is her subspace pouch, which can store anything by saying an activation word. Chibi Rhea conjures items from the purple portal, asking if Cyan has never seen magic like this and suggesting grabbing a coat. Rhea playfully wags her finger at Cyan, cautioning him not to be so shocked just yet. Blue magical energy erupts and expands as a voice commands, warp. A bright blue magical circle forms on the floor, ready for instant transportation. Rhea and Cyan appear with a whoosh and a thud through a warp, surprising 2 onlookers in a grand hallway. Cyan, with wide red eyes, looks around in shock, asking Rhea, Where is this?" Rhea explains that they are in the shopping district she used to frequent. "Back when I was a marquis's daughter." Onlookers with obscured faces comment on Rhea and Cyan's sudden appearance, realizing they must be a mage. Rhea firmly takes Cyan's hand with a firm grip, noting the crowded street and her fear of losing him. Cyan looks up at Rhea with wide, teary red eyes as she plans their shopping for furniture and food supplies. Rhea contemplates where to start their shopping, while Cyan hides his face, appearing overwhelmed. 3 excited children rush towards Rhea, calling her pretty sister. Pretty sister? Cyan, holding Rhea's hand, looks up and asks if she can do other magic too, to which she confidently replies, of course. A large hand reaches towards a startled Cyan, who looks shocked with wide red eyes. Rhea's internal thought praises Cyan as such a cutie, while she reassures him, I can do other magic too. Rhea lovingly pats the heads of the 3 children, while Cyan stands by, annoyed, with a surge of dark energy radiating from his head. The gray-haired girl calls out, Ray. Rhea looks surprised and asks, as the girl looks up at her. Rhea's hand appears to float away, leaving a distressed Cyan behind amidst shimmering lights. Rhea, with white hair, looks distraught, muttering, ah, and then thinks that's true, but someone calls out, hey, wait, slow down, as Rhea and Cyan walk away in the background. Rhea enthusiastically presents Cyan in various outfits, praising how great and well they suit him. Rhea, with wide blue eyes, beams with a delighted smile. Rhea excitedly offers Cyan a set of pajamas, but Chibi Cyan looks annoyed and speechless. A man informs Rhea that Cyan's furniture will be ready for pickup in a week, as Cyan thinks, got it, Cian points out that Rhea needs to take a closer look at the tableware as ordinary wood will break easily, but Rhea casually suggests buying more if it breaks, urging him to hurry. A man with brown hair approaches Rhea, calling her, "Hey, pretty silver-haired lady," and inviting her to have some fun with us. The man with brown hair grins, promising Rhea a game that'll blow your mind as other men watch. Rhea embraces Cian, thinking in frustration, "Why is it that no matter where I go, there are always these lowlives around?" Cian's red eyes glow yellow from behind her. Rhea turns with a sudden startle, telling the men, "How dare you speak to Rhea like that?" A thought bubble questions, "This aura, could it be?" Cian, surrounded by a dark red aura, his red eyes glowing, thinks, "I'll kill them." The man with brown hair recoils in horror as dark energy spreads from Cian, while another man cries out in a gasp of fright. Rhea looks distressed, questioning, "Why, is the awakening starting?" As dark energy expands, Rhea's hand, glowing with blue light, reaches for Cian, who is engulfed in dark energy, telling him it's not too late to stop it, and calling his name, Cian. Rhea pulls Cian into a swirling embrace of blue magical energy, telling him, "You mustn't think such bad thoughts." Cian looks down, calmly agreeing, I understand." Rhea holds her chest in relief as the blue energy around them dissipates, Cian now calm beside her. Rhea, with a gentle smile, sighs in profound relief. "Phew! Thank goodness." The brown-haired man from the shopping district, looking startled and clutching his chest, gazes at something off-panel with a surprised expression. The house's exterior is seen at dusk as an angry voice shouts, "This is all because of you bastards! What are you relaxing for?" Followed by a pained "Gah!" and a loud thud. The house stands illuminated under a bright, serene full moon, marking the passage of time to night. Rhea, with long white hair, stirs a bubbling pot on the stove, thinking we're screwed about her cooking attempt as dark smoke rises with a smolder. Chibi Rhea looks horrified by her own cooking, stating it's a terrible visual without even tasting it, humorously suggesting they should just eat out. Rhea, with long white hair, stands in the kitchen regretting her earlier decision to cook dinner for Cian. Rhea reflects on her past as a commander, recalling a chibi version of herself offering to cook, which caused 2 male soldiers to desperately plead for her to stop. Rhea, with long white hair, holds a cookbook, pondering if it would be better to simply go out and buy dinner instead. Cian, with dark hair, holding a glass, confidently tells Rhea, "Move aside, let me take a look," indicating he will take over. Chibi Cian drinks from a cup, focused, while Rhea's long white hair is visible beside him. Rhea, with long white hair, asks Cian if her cooking is not good, suggesting that buying dinner might be a better option, while Cian remains silent. Cian, with dark hair and wearing an apron, considers adding onion and spices and a bay leaf to the dish, believing it might still turn out fine. Cian, wearing an apron, instructs Rhea to set the table as he will do the cooking, to which Rhea agrees, okay. Cian's hand skillfully chop an onion on a cutting board with a chop 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 sound, then drop the pieces into a simmering pot with a splatter. Rhea, with long white hair, continues setting the table, while Cian, wearing an apron, tastes the bubbling soup he is preparing, with sounds of boiling and a gulp. Rhea, with wide blue eyes and long white hair, observes Cian with an impressed expression, realizing he wasn't lying when she said she could cook. Cian, from atop a stool at the stove, reflects that Rhea doesn't know about the power inside her, and fears mentioning it carelessly might overwhelm her. Rhea, with long white hair, thinks about how the mere appearance of some thugs almost triggered her awakening, speculating that she might actually have a fragile mentality. Rhea's striking blue eye is shown in close-up, gazing thoughtfully as a quiet clink sounds, emphasizing her deep introspection. Cian, with dark hair, holds Rhea's coat, reflecting that because of her fragile mentality, he is staying by her side. Cian, with dark hair and wearing an apron, compliments Rhea's amazing cooking, remarking, "It's like you're being trained for marriage," while Rhea, with long white hair, replies that she doesn't know how to cook many dishes. Rhea, with long white hair, looks surprised, asking, as Cian takes a plate and casually inquires about her height. Rhea reveals her height is 168 sir, prompting Cian to stir the soup, remarking that the difference isn't as big as I thought. Cian, with dark hair, internally acknowledges that it's still a big difference in height, but decides not to be honest to avoid making Rhea sulk. Cian brings a bowl to the table where Rhea, with long white hair, is already seated and ready for dinner. Rhea, with wide blue eyes, takes a spoonful of food with an intense, electrified aura surrounding her, anticipating the taste. Rhea, with long white hair and wide blue eyes, joyfully exclaims that the food is delicious and really delicious, as Cian watches her, blushing slightly. Cian, with dark hair and red eyes, blushes intensely, thinking Rhea is amazing and that the woman who marries you will be so happy. Rhea stirs her soup, and Cian, with dark hair, quietly murmurs, Rhea too, seemingly in response to her prior statement. Rhea asks, as Cian explains that eating delicious food makes you happy.
Rhea agrees with, I see, as Cian, blushing, tastes the food from his spoon amidst a backdrop of pink blossoms. Cian, holding a spoon over the pot, observes that Rhea is holding your spoon the same way I am. Rhea, with long white hair, watches Cian, realizing that he has, quote, been learning manners by watching me. Cian, with dark hair, reassures Rhea, offering to make it for you if there's something you want to eat. Rhea, with long white hair, looks distraught as she thinks, Rhea really can't cook. Chibi Rhea, looking utterly defeated, laments that just throwing every ingredient into a pot doesn't make it food, concluding it's just a graveyard of ingredients. Cian, with dark hair, stands over a tiny, trembling Chibi Rhea at the dining table, retracting his compliment about her being smart, yet still feeling something positive about her. Cian, with dark hair and red eyes, smiles warmly, reflecting that he was happy because Rhea was the first person to ever cook for me. Rhea, with long white hair and blue eyes, looks on with a gentle, thoughtful expression amidst a sparkling, ornate background. Rhea's lips curve into a soft, serene smile, indicating a moment of quiet contentment or reflection.
Cian, with dark hair, sitting at the dining table with Rhea, promises to make it delicious next time, indicating his ongoing commitment to cooking. Cian, with dark hair, standing outside the house, declares, No, from now on I will handle the cooking, while a Chibi Rhea appears delighted by his words. Rhea, with long white hair, lies in bed next to Cian, thinking, Damn it, as a caption explains they are sharing a bed until Cian's furniture arrives.
Cian, with dark purple hair, sits up angrily in bed, thinking about the clone who accepts everything without protest, while Rhea sleeps peacefully. Cian, with dark purple hair, clutches his chest in bed beside Rhea, thinking he would kill her right now, but endures for the night's sake. Cian, with dark purple hair and red eyes, thinks about how he has felt this before too, and finds it really strange that Rhea is fine despite the dark ether. The purple-horned man, holding Rhea, thinks about the high concentration of dark ether and wonders why Rhea is unaffected, speculating if she's a transcendent. Cian, with dark purple hair and red eyes, sits in bed, thinking he, quote, could absorb the energy and ease her pain as dark energy emanates from his hand. Cian, with dark hair and red eyes, watches chibi versions of himself in various outfits, while a chibi Rhea appears delighted, admiring how good they look.
A purple-horned man holds Rhea in her sleep while Cian sits nearby, and the man declares his intent to make Rhea suffer nightmares with a sudden flick. The purple-horned man is shown in close-up, contemplating what form of torment he should inflict next. The purple-horned man considers tormenting Cian with despair, loneliness, sorrow, or pleasure, as a distressed Cian is partially visible. Cian, with dark hair and glowing red eyes, looks distressed, surrounded by purple energy with a heavy thump. The purple-horned man continues to ponder how he will torment Cian, listing loneliness, sorrow, or pleasure. The purple-horned man with purple glowing hands holds Rhea's face, deciding that the torment shall be pleasure. Rhea looks distressed as blue magical energy sparks around her neck, and a thought questions her, pretending otherwise, with a shudder. The purple-horned man speaks of spectators while looking down, accompanied by a sharp snap. Cian, with dark hair and glowing red eyes, looks intensely off-panel, surrounded by purple energy, with a thump. Cian is shown first looking down, then looking up with an intense expression and glowing red eyes, while Rhea's distorted, glowing image is seen behind him with a flick. The purple-horned man is forcefully struck by powerful blue energy, radiating light from his chest with loud, impactful sounds. Rhea looks distressed as blue energy emanates from her hand towards Cyan, who is engulfed in dark energy and thinks if this is an exorcism. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, thinks it is strange that someone without spiritual sight could see a nightmare. Rhea, with long white hair, thinks her senses are sharp, then yawns, stating she was sleeping well. Rhea, with long white hair and blue eyes, awakens and asks Cyan why he isn't asleep. Cyan, with dark hair, remains silent and looks away after Rhea's question. Rhea yawns, realizing Cyan looked upset and must have had a foul dream, feeling the nightmare has passed by, with a yawn. Cyan looks startled, exclaiming in surprise, as Rhea reaches towards him from the bed with a whoosh. Rhea embraces Cyan, promising to protect him. Cyan reflects on learning how to fend off nightmares from an elf friend, wondering if his method is crude.
Rhea, with long white hair, holds Cyan close in bed, telling him not to worry and just sleep. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, watches Rhea, then gently pats her, a soft pat. Rhea and Cyan are shown sleeping peacefully in their bed, illuminated by a warm, starry light. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, stirs, looking at Rhea as he sits up slightly, with a soft rustle. Rhea is shown crying in her sleep, thinking she is weak and calling out for her mother, as Cyan looks on from beside her. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, looks sternly, reflecting on Rhea's perceived weakness. Rhea, with long white hair and blue eyes, smiles gently in her sleep. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, gently touches Rhea's face, thinking she is truly arrogant and challenging a cursed god to watch over him. With a tap, a hand, likely Cyan's, is shown retracting with a soft rustle. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, leans over Rhea, placing his hand on her mouth, dark energy emanating, and states he will kill her if she fails to prove her worth, with a hollow sound.
Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, smiles menacingly, promising to kill Rhea someday. Rhea, with long white hair and blue eyes, lies peacefully asleep, smiling, as Cyan thinks Estrella. Chibi Rhea joyfully eats food from a spoon, her eyes closed in bliss with a slurp. Rhea, with long white hair and blue eyes, enjoys her meal, thinking about luxury while smiling serenely. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, looks contemplative, then reflects on his cooking with a murmur. Rhea, with long white hair and blue eyes, listens intently as an overlay shows her considering questions about adoptive parents, her awakening, and not wanting to reveal an Achilles heel. A basket of bread, apples, and cheese is on a table, as a thought bubble questions what I wish to do. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes holding a fork, thinks about his wish with a rumble. Rhea, with long white hair and blue eyes, asks Cyan what he wishes to do as they sit at the dining table. Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, looks at Rhea, continuing their conversation at the dining table.
The exterior of a house is shown under a bright sunny sky. Rhea, with long white hair and closed eyes, sits at a desk, contemplating swordsmanship and how evil gods in novels never used swords. A dark, shadowy hand against a vibrant purple and red background illustrates that evil gods could obliterate humans with divine power, thus having no need for swords. Two shadowy figures, one with dark hair and one with blonde hair, engage in combat, while a thought questions if mimicking a master's swordsmanship is better to mock the hero. With a thud, Rhea's blue eye is shown in close-up as she thinks about that swordsmanship being observed only when they tried to kill her. Chibi Rhea, looking stressed and clutching her head, thinks, what to do, and that she was too flustered to answer properly. With a thud, Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, asks a pale Rhea if she is all right, looking concerned. With a thump, Rhea, with long white hair, observes Cyan, thinking that since he's the seed of a strong evil god, there's no telling the limits of his body. With a slide, Rhea looks out a window at Cyan, who is sitting outside, as she thinks about teaching swordsmanship to someone like him. With a step, Cyan, with dark hair and red eyes, sits contemplatively on the grass outside the house. With a soft thump,
A person's legs are seen on green grass arranging sticks, while a chibi Rhea observes, thinking the person is sulking. Rhea looks surprised and slightly worried in an elegant room, wondering who is calling her name. A chibi Rhea deftly dodges a glowing purple orb with a swift movement. Rhea clenches her eyes shut, clutching her head in distress, surrounded by a purple aura. A muscular man with short brown hair, smiling broadly, apologizes, and is introduced as Grandmaster Tuwang Hex. Rhea's eyes sparkle with excitement, expressing a strong desire to drink and run towards the source, indicated by 2 bottles. Rhea looks down, appearing distressed, and lets out a resigned sigh as she struggles with her desires. Rhea sits by a bright window, looking at green trees, declaring her decision to quit drinking. Rhea questions herself, surprised at the idea of quitting drinking, then clarifies that she means a different kind of drinking. A chibi Rhea eagerly eats from a spoon, while a thought bubble challenges her sincerity about abstaining and another expresses indignation. Rhea states her intention to abstain for a while and makes a small ahem sound, indicating she's addressing someone, presumably the partially visible dark-haired man. Rhea looks away thoughtfully, with her arms crossed, appearing to be in deep contemplation. A shadowy silhouette of a blond man with a powerful aura is shown, and the narration introduces him as Ehrenheier, son of Marquis Grodin. Rhea looks startled and intensely at something off-panel, her blue eyes wide. Rhea, with her arms crossed, asks why the conversation has suddenly turned to this topic. Rhea's expression suggests contemplation as she first wonders if she knows Ehrenheier, then confirms that she does. A majestic, winged figure, Ehrenheier El Grodin, nicknamed Aaron, is revealed as the protagonist of a novel, surrounded by falling feathers. 2 hands extend towards a glowing golden symbol, as narration explains that Ehrenheier is considered a rising star, according to divine predictions. In a flashback to the original story, a distressed blonde-haired man cries out, "Master!" The blonde-haired man, in an outdoor scene, proposes marriage to Rhea if he wins, then charges towards her with courage. Rhea, standing in an office, questions if Aaron was truly that type of person, while a voice describes him as a true genius. A chibi Rhea asks why Aaron wasn't adopted as a disciple, after the speaker mentions considering it, but Aaron politely refused. Rhea thoughtfully considers that Aaron's goal is to become the strongest swordsman, noting that Hex's peaceful philosophy prevents him from using firearms. Rhea looks shocked and flustered, crossing her arms, as a thought bubble questions if it's this early to consider adopting Gale as a disciple. A hand gently picks up a stick from the ground, accompanied by a soft thud. Cian, with dark hair and red eyes, sits on the ground, stirring it with a stick, as the narration observes Rhea looking distressed. Rhea, with a serious expression, reflects that a swordmaster doesn't instruct just anyone, recalling how she essentially pleaded to be taught first. Cian, with dark hair and glowing red eyes, looks tormented, regretting that his ambition led him astray and wishing he had remained quiet, cleaning and cooking as before. Cian sits alone in a dark, overgrown path, bathed in a solitary, melancholy beam of light. Cian is startled when his name is called, his red eyes glowing with intense surprise, then wonders if something is happening so soon as he calms slightly. Rhea, with long white hair, approaches Cian with a gentle smile, looking down at him. Rhea holds Cian's hand as they depart from a house, and a man in the doorway asks them to visit again, which Rhea acknowledges with appreciation. Rhea and Cian walk away from the house, the narration commenting that Cian's chosen furnishings were quite basic. Cian, with dark hair and red eyes, glances sideways while Rhea observes him thoughtfully, her finger on her chin. Cian's red eyes glint with a sharp intensity as he looks forward, surrounded by faint shimmering energy. Rhea calls out to Cian from outside a grand sunlit house. Rhea asks Cian to wait for her at a cafe nearby, while she makes a brief stop, and Cian appears to hesitate. Rhea stands next to Cian, who has dark hair, while a chibi character with purple hair gently holds a puppy. Rhea's blue eye widens in realization, thinking to herself, could it be? Rhea considers if Cian is recalling a past event and worrying that she might not return, a flashback showing her in a dark cloak. Rhea kneels before Xian, holding his hands and offering comfort and protection. Xian looks surprised as Rhea places a bracelet on his wrist, which makes a distinct click sound. Rhea smiles warmly and gently, surrounded by soft light and white flowers. Xian's dark eyes, with a hint of red, look wide and innocent with a slight blush on his cheeks. Xian, with dark hair and red eyes, blushes slightly as he agrees to wait for Rhea, looking at her with an earnest expression. Under a bright, clear blue sky, a thought bubble urges Rhea to return immediately. Xian sits alone at a table in a brightly lit cafe, patiently waiting. Xian, with dark hair and red eyes, looks down thoughtfully as he adjusts a bracelet on his wrist. Xian's hand, wearing a sparkling blue bracelet, is shown in close-up as he thinks he has never received anything like it before, with a sparkle. Xian gazes at his reflection in a window, his thoughtful expression mirroring his internal state. Rhea stands with Xian and two men, as the thought acknowledges Rhea's strength and independence. Rhea is seen with Xian resting on her shoulder, as Xian thinks he doesn't want to become a burden to her. Xian sighs heavily, slumping over a luxurious table, clearly in distress. Xian looks up with determined red eyes, thinking that he wants to grow stronger. Rhea stands ready with a sword, back to back with Xian, who thinks about a future one day, with fierce determination. Xian is confronted at a table by a cloaked man, who sharply asks him about the origin of his bracelet. An assortment of delightful pastries is shown as a thought expresses pleasure over the wonderful smell of bread. Rhea smiles radiantly, holding a book and enjoying the delightful atmosphere, with various sweet treats surrounding her. Rhea smiles gently, praising something with a compliment about its truly remarkable craftsmanship. Rhea looks slightly surprised and utters, as she stands in a bright, crowded street. Observing a man in a dark uniform, Rhea expresses a bad feeling and her need to enter a shop, where a man in a dark hat informs her they're investigating a theft involving a child accused of stealing a bracelet, shocking Rhea. As Rhea rushes forward, ignoring the man in the dark hat's plea to wait, she realizes with distress that the accused child could be Xian. Feet in dark boots swiftly move across a glistening floor, indicating hurried movement. Rhea stands at the entrance, observing Xian caught between a cloaked man and a man in a blue uniform. Rhea exclaims upon seeing Xian, who, with glowing red eyes, looks tormented and wonders what exactly happened. Rhea, holding a book, expresses her disbelief that Xian would ever steal, then questions the accusation in a soft, "Huh." The cloaked man sternly demands the bracelet, but Xian defiantly refuses, declaring that it was a precious gift and not stolen. Rhea, with a determined expression, warns the man that if he continues acting that way, she will give him a good spanking. Xian looks startled, his red eyes wide, as he reacts to the sudden turn of events. The cloaked man pauses, seemingly recognizing Rhea's name, repeating, "Rhea, you say?" in surprise. Rhea stands, emanating a powerful blue aura from her outstretched hand, reacting with a questioning, "Huh?" as she prepares for action. The brown-haired man with scars and bandaged arms, Grandmaster Hex, smiles broadly and greets Rhea with a, well, Rhea." Rhea delivers a powerful punch to Grandmaster Hex's face, sending him reeling as two chibi onlookers react in shock. Rhea, with her arm outstretched, continues to emanate a blue, glowing aura, maintaining her powerful and determined stance, still questioning, "Huh?" Grandmaster Hex, the brown-haired man with scars and bandaged arms, smiles widely again, greeting someone with a, well. Rhea delivers another powerful punch to Grandmaster Hex's face, sending him reeling, while two chibi onlookers remain shocked. The scene shifts to the exterior of a grand, elegant house, bathed in bright sunlight, accompanied by a narrative, well. A narrative comment expresses surprise that the two individuals knew each other. Grandmaster Hex, with his scarred face and bandaged hand, blushes and laughs while holding his cheek. A textual interlude indicates that they moved to a more secluded area for their conversation. Rhea stands protectively in front of an angry Xian, who shouts that he's not a little kid, while Rhea thoughtfully remarks that the previous situation was a bit much. Grandmaster Hex stands contemplatively, observing Rhea and Cian in a bright, ornate interior. Grandmaster Hex, with his scarred face, looks thoughtful as he begins to speak with Butt. Grandmaster Hex asks who Cian is, causing Rhea to react with, "Huh?" and Cian to look shocked. Rhea glances down at Cian with a concerned expression, lost in thought. Cian looks down with a sorrowful expression, his red eyes reflecting distress. Rhea remains silent, her lips slightly parted in contemplation. Rhea and Cian smile brightly together, facing Grandmaster Hex, as white flowers bloom in the foreground. Grandmaster Hex, with his scarred face and green eyes, looks lost in thought, his bandaged hand touching his chin. The narrative explains Rhea and Grandmaster Hex's deep bond, forged through shared struggles and embarrassing moments, leaving nothing to hide between them. Cian's wide red eyes reflect concern as the narration reveals he is the evil god's reincarnation, and Rhea fears Hex's negative reaction if he knew the truth. Rhea tells Grandmaster Hex she's caring for Cian due to circumstances, but Hex's thought bubble questions if it's a kidnapping, finding the situation suspicious. Grandmaster Hex concludes that Cian is Rhea's disciple, which he believes is why she quit drinking. Grandmaster Hex sternly holds Cian's face, surprising the cat-eared Cian, who shouts, What? Why?" in disbelief. Grandmaster Hex whispers his genuine worry to Rhea, while Cian stands nearby, looking angrily confused. Grandmaster Hex sternly glares at Rhea, forbidding her from cooking Cian's meals, suggesting that outside food is pretty high quality these days. Rhea forcefully shoves Grandmaster Hex, pushing him backward with clear physical dominance. Grandmaster Hex grimaces in pain, reeling from a powerful, unseen impact. Grandmaster Hex is defeated and hunched on the ground as Rhea sternly demands he cut the nonsense and apologize to her disciple. Rhea presses Grandmaster Hex to apologize, and with a resigned expression, he concedes, admitting that he misspoke earlier. Grandmaster Hex bows to Cian, offering an apology, while Cian looks startled and wonders if the man is truly okay. Rhea embraces Cian, reassuring him that he doesn't have to accept Grandmaster Hex's apology. A chibi Rhea remarks on Hex's audacity to wipe the slate clean with a single apology, while Hex, also chibi, complains that Rhea is teaching Cian bad things, and Cian blushes in distress. Rhea's boot steps forward, declaring they are leaving, while Grandmaster Hex, still reeling, calls out for them to wait. Grandmaster Hex looks shocked as he questions if Rhea is truly not going to meet Ehrenheier. Rhea walks away carrying Cian, her long white hair flowing, and questions, "Ehrenheier?" Rhea sternly tells Grandmaster Hex that their conversation is over. A glowing purple orb is centered in an ornate room, as a thought bubble asks, "Speaking of which, what about you?" Rhea stands with her arms crossed, looking resolute against a light-patterned background. Rhea states that she doesn't think she will meet Ehrenheier. A thought bubble explains that, according to the original story, Rhea is fated to meet Ehrenheier in a few years anyway. Rhea thinks that if she meets him now and Cian encounters him, it will only add to the confusion. Cian looks up with wide, concerned red eyes, listening to Rhea's thoughts. Grandmaster Hex watches Rhea and Cian walk away, acknowledging Ehrenheier's talent, but accepting Rhea's decision. Rhea smiles gently, affectionately patting Cian's head, surrounded by glowing light and white-purple flowers. Grandmaster Hex, from behind, raises his bandaged hand, calling out Rhea's name with a sense of urgency. Rhea and Cian walk away from the grand house, Rhea commenting that the recent events were quite a whirlwind. Rhea asks Cian if he's upset because of Hex and apologizes for the experience, and Cian, looking down, softly replies, "It's okay." Rhea's hand places a stack of plates with a thud as she asks Cian who the man was, then reveals he's a very old friend. Cian, with wide red eyes, thinks that's why Rhea called him her disciple, realizing it would be awkward to say she just took in an orphan. Rhea places a plate down with a thud and asks Cian why he didn't just give the scary man the bracelet, which makes Cian wonder how he could do that. Cian blushes slightly, recalling that Rhea said the bracelet belonged to his mother. A chibi Rhea gushes, saying, "Ah, he's so sweet. while a thought bubble reveals there's a tracking spell on the bracelet. Rhea instructs Cian to give it away next time, prioritizing his safety, but Cian agrees while inwardly deciding he won't. Rhea places her hand on a wooden box, a blue aura swirling around it, and says, "All right, now then." Rhea smiles radiantly, holding a box, and announces, "Let's celebrate your birthday." Cian looks surprised, asking, "My birthday?" as Rhea stands holding the box near a swirling blue portal. Cian's wide red eyes reflect shock as he thinks, "I don't have a... could it be?" Rhea's voice asks Cian when his birthday is, as he sits on the floor, reading a book with a rustle. Rhea looks surprised to find Cian reading The Chronicles of Azrael, commenting that he knows how to read. Cian looks startled. Rhea smiles, asking Cian why else, as she expresses her curiosity. Cian looks away, saying he doesn't know, while Rhea, looking at him, wonders who doesn't know their own birthday. Cian sits in a dimly lit, somber room, intently focused on reading his book. Rhea calls out, "Hey," to Cian, who irritably tells her not to talk to him as he's reading. Cian gently clutches his chest, a subtle smile playing on his lips, thinking Rhea noticed his inability to answer. A thought bubble explains that Cian couldn't answer because he genuinely doesn't know his birthday. Cian looks forward with a soft expression, his hand near the blue bracelet, surrounded by elegant white roses. Rhea stands smiling, extending a hand toward Cian, seen from the back in a warm, sunlit room. Rhea hands the box to Cian, then says this means to become her direct disciple, prompting Cian to ask, "Master, what do you mean?" The image transitions with a smoky effect, followed by a close-up of Rhea looking thoughtful, pondering, what could it mean? Rhea skillfully wields a shining sword, as a narrative explains one is from her family. Rhea stands below a blonde-haired man in a red cape, recognized as the Sword Saint, with the narration describing the second sword as bestowed by the Emperor. Rhea holds the ornate sword, her expression serene, as she explains that accepting it means becoming her direct disciple. Cian looks up with wide, shimmering red eyes, seemingly overwhelmed by Rhea's declaration. Rhea holds the sword horizontally, her expression serious and determined. Rhea's piercing blue eyes are shown in a close-up, conveying determination. Rhea stands confidently, holding the sword horizontally, emanating a powerful aura. Against a dark, red-tinged background with sparkling particles, a thought ponders that if Cian, who learned swordsmanship from her in the distant future, ends up destroying the world, Rhea will surely regret this moment, as Cian stands in a dark setting and Rhea looks on. Rhea stands over Cian, explaining that the masterpiece sword is named Barisada and automatically adjusts to fit its user. A hand holds up an ornate sword with a glowing red gem, ready for presentation. Cian expresses his utter amazement to Rhea at receiving such a magnificent sword, finding it unbelievable. Cian's red eyes glisten with tears, overwhelmed by the emotional significance of the gift. Rhea stands with her back to the viewer, the gifted sword now secured at her hip, against a warmly lit background. Cian embraces Rhea, burying his face into her side, and softly expresses his gratitude. Rhea gently pats Cian's back as he confesses his earlier fear that she might abandon him. Cian's face is awash with tears, openly crying from the profound emotional relief and joy. Rhea looks down at Cian with a tender, loving gaze, her blue eyes conveying deep affection. Rhea's blue eyes convey sincerity as she reassures Cian that she would never abandon him, upholding her promise. Rhea embraces Cian, declaring that since he has a new last name, they will celebrate today as his birthday to honor his new beginning. Rhea affectionately pats Cian's head, hoping her actions will prevent him from ever considering destroying the world. A stylized image of Rhea's hand appears against a dark, sparkling background, pondering a grim future where Cian might fall to evil. Rhea, radiating power against a cosmic backdrop, thinks that she would stop Cian herself if he were to fall to evil, even if it cost her life. Rhea grips a sword hilt with determination, solidifying her resolve to intervene if Cian's path veers towards destruction. In a disturbing vision, Rhea is shown impaled by a sword, bleeding, implying the dire consequences of her earlier thought about stopping Xian. The scene transitions from a serene, moonlit house exterior to a softly glowing blue room where Rhea and Xian sit. Rhea remarks on the room's previous emptiness, a sentiment Xian acknowledges as correct. Chibi Xian warns Chibi Rhea that her training is quite intense, to which Chibi Rhea confidently replies she will brace herself. Rhea looks at Xian, who is settled in bed, and asks him what is troubling him. Rhea playfully suggests to Xian that he might not want to sleep alone. Xian blushes and averts his gaze as Rhea, in a thought bubble, asks if he doesn't want to sleep alone. Chibi Rhea's thought bubbles tease Xian about being scared to sleep alone and wonders if she's scary, but Chibi Xian adamantly denies it. Xian pulls the covers over his head and tells Rhea he is going to sleep, urging her to do the same. Chibi Rhea's thought bubble observes that Xian seems genuinely happy to be her student and has become more honest. Rhea's thought bubble expresses satisfaction with Xian's growth. Then she recalls he dislikes her touching his hair. Rhea, with white hair, looks thoughtful, considering her next move or how to approach Xian. Rhea's hand is shown in a gentle, sweeping motion, indicating a careful withdrawal or gesture. Rhea leans in and kisses Xian on the forehead, wishing him a good night with a soft kiss. Rhea moves away from Xian after kissing him, her long white hair flowing around her. Rhea's hand and Xian's hand gently touch in a brief, comforting gesture.
Xian leans into Rhea, accepting her affection in the softly lit, flowery room. Xian, blushing, softly returns Rhea's goodnight. Rhea looks surprised, touching her cheek as she realizes Xian just kissed her on the cheek. Rhea smiles softly, her eyes closed, clearly pleased and touched by Xian's unexpected kiss. Rhea smiles contentedly in the peaceful, blue-lit room, her eyes closed in sleep. Xian lies in bed, his red eyes wide and startled, as if disturbed by something outside or in his thoughts. Rhea is shown sleeping peacefully in her bed in the glowing blue room. A close-up of Rhea sleeping calmly in bed, her long white hair fanned out. Shimmering light emanates from a window pane, hinting at a transition into a dream or a change in atmosphere. Xian stands by Rhea's bed, looking at her as she sleeps in the softly sparkling, blue-hued room.
Xian, with glowing red eyes, looks forward and questions if Rhea intends to make him her disciple. Rhea lies sleeping in distress, grimacing as purple magic and black smoke swirl around her, indicating a nightmare or evil influence. The red-horned woman appears in Rhea's dream, taunting her for being weak and finding amusement in using Rhea's own swordsmanship against her enemy. The red-horned woman continues her menacing monologue, expressing her eagerness to witness Rhea's complete despair and loss. The red-horned woman's thought bubble addresses Xian with contempt, calling Rhea, "my foolish and ignorant Astria." Rhea lies in bed, engulfed by swirling black smoke, portraying the lingering effect of the nightmare or evil presence. The red-horned woman, with her black wings, watches Rhea from outside the window as Rhea lies distressed in bed. The red-horned woman's glowing black wings are visible as she departs, leaving Rhea to her torment. Xian sits up in bed, looking worriedly at the still sleeping and distressed Rhea. Rhea jolts awake in bed, her blue eyes wide with alarm and a startled expression. Rhea stirs in bed, acknowledging to herself the difficulty of feigning ignorance. Rhea, with sharp blue eyes, thinks intensely about the evil god Cassian using Xian's body and its desire to see her despair. Xian, with glowing red eyes and black smoke swirling from his hands, smiles ominously, thinking this is perfect for regaining power. An abstract background suggests Cassian's internal monologue, challenging any good gods to protect Rhea from it. Xian leans over Rhea in her bed, with black smoke around his hand, thinking that if Rhea cannot prove her usefulness, Xian's red eyes glow menacingly as he smiles, thinking he will kill Rhea whenever he pleases, and found all her previous words hilarious. Rhea jolts awake in bed, grabbing her blanket, realizing Cassian intends to use her swordsmanship against its sworn enemy. Rhea smiles confidently, touching her head, declaring to the evil god that its plans will not come to pass. The exterior of Rhea's grand house is bathed in bright sunlight, signaling the start of a new day. A hand pulls back curtains, revealing a sunny window, as a voice calls out for Rhea to wake up because it's already midday.
Cian stands by Rhea's bed as a tiny Rhea is curled up sleeping, wanting more rest. But Cian reminds her of her promise to teach him a new sword technique today. Cian stands with his arms crossed, watching Rhea continue to sleep soundly under her covers. Cian smiles softly, his red eyes sparkling amidst delicate white flowers, looking pleased. A small purple-haired chibi witch character floats above a bright, sunny outdoor scene with lush green trees. Cian takes a steadying breath before vigorously practicing his swordsmanship, striking a tree with a glowing sword. Cian moves with focused intensity, rapidly swinging his sword, causing bright trails of energy to follow his movements during practice. Cian sheathes his sword with a phew, looking composed and satisfied after his rigorous training in the forest. Cian turns, calling out Rhea as he walks through the forest. Rhea stands in the dappled sunlight of the forest, looking thoughtful and slightly amused. Cian asks Rhea for her assessment of his performance, to which Rhea casually replies that it was passable, I guess.
Rhea internally acknowledges Cian's incredible genius, while calling him stingy with praise. Cian looks a little disgruntled by her comment. Rhea's blue eyes are shown as narration explains that in 3 years of her teaching, Cian's natural genius and hard work have elevated him to a first-class swordsman. The narration continues against a forest backdrop, stating that Cian's rapid progress means he'll soon be able to wield sword energy and become a sword expert. Cian stands in the sun-drenched forest, adjusting his collar and commenting on the heat after his training. Rhea smiles, thinking that Cian has matured well, and she personally trained his dignified, aristocratic demeanor in addition to his swordsmanship. Rhea thinks she worked hard to eliminate Cian's old stray cat look, as a chibi Cian looks displeased beside a grumpy chibi Rhea. Rhea looks surprised, her blue eyes wide, reacting to something unexpected. Cian looks startled and exasperated, asking, "Again?" A chibi Jan, in cat form, angrily complains that Rhea went yesterday and questions why she needs to see that guy every single day. Rhea walks away, scolding Cian about his disrespectful tone, while Cian retorts that he will treat her like an adult when she acts like one. Rhea's hand is on a door handle as she chuckles, thinking Cian harbors ill feelings toward Hex due to the bracelet incident. Rhea smiles gently, explaining that Hex is her friend, one she has known for 100 years, as she walks away. Cian looks visibly upset, his red eyes wide, arguing that while Rhea may have known Hex longer, Cian catches Rhea's hand, protesting that she is closer to him. A close-up of Cian's tearful red eyes conveys his emotional plea. Cian holds Rhea's hand, asking her to stay with him, while Rhea internally dismisses it as one of his unreasonable tantrums. Cian gently holds Rhea's hand, looking up at her with a soft expression, as Rhea looks down at him thoughtfully. Cian looks confused as a hand reaches to lightly touch his face, asking, "Huh?" A vibrant, chaotic smack sound effect explodes across the panel, indicating a playful hit or gesture. Cian covers his face, yelling, "Ugh," as Rhea chastises him for offering alcohol as a minor, dropping formalities, and asks if this is what she taught him. Rhea emits a burst of white-purple energy, knocking Cian back as he stumbles. Cian, disoriented and grimacing with red eyes, asks, "Ugh. Why again?" Cian lies unconscious on the floor, while Rhea stands over him in the dimly lit room. Rhea stands with a pensive expression in the soft, sparkling light, quietly observing Cian. A close-up of Rhea's mouth as she utters "warp," initiating a spatial transfer. Cian's legs are shown in a blur of green energy, indicating a rapid, magical movement. Rhea stands atop a cliff overlooking a lush landscape, a glowing blue light in the distance, explaining that she also trains. In a flashback, a younger Rhea and Cian stand together as narration explains that a few years ago, when she decided to teach Cian swordsmanship, against an intricate, glowing blue background, a thought bubble introduces the concept of the mind sword. Text describes the mind sword as a technique created by Rhea's grandmaster, the fifth sword saint, designed to drive out one's inner demon, and is shown with a glowing sphere and scion. A person's hands firmly grip a glowing, ornate sword, radiating light blue energy. Xian, with dark hair, thinks Rhea intended to teach him the technique once he reached a certain level. Rhea, with white hair and blue eyes, reveals that this sword technique is unfortunately still an incomplete, unfinished art. A dark silhouette of Xian is engulfed in red and black energy, unable to handle the technique's power and might end up destroying himself. Xian rests on a sofa, and narration explains Rhea has no choice but to use Hex as an excuse to go out, having moved Xian there before teleporting to the dungeon. Rhea, with long white hair, crosses her arms and sighs, thinking her progress is slower than expected and Xian might surpass her. Rhea looks up, surprised, with wide blue eyes, softly questioning, Rhea stands before several shadowy ogre-like figures with glowing red eyes, who tower over her menacingly. Rhea casually sits on the shoulder of a large green ogre, who looks up at her with a surprised expression. Rhea smiles warmly, greeting the mama ogre, baby ogre, and papa ogre. Rhea gives a red fruit to the eager baby ogre and promises to bring something tasty next time, explaining someone held her up today. An aerial view reveals a rocky, ancient landscape described as a high-level dungeon. The sky darkens over a forest. As narration explains, this was the setting until recently. A giant, two-headed cyclops with glowing red eyes and skulls around its neck is revealed as the dungeon's former boss. A tiny Rhea, surrounded by red energy, aggressively kicks the two-headed cyclops as two small ogres watch in astonishment. Rhea stands atop the defeated two-headed cyclops, glowing with blue light, while the ogre family watches, marking the end of its reign. Rhea walks through a vibrant, lush landscape. As narration states, this place has become her training and meditation ground. Rhea smiles at two small ogres, explaining that the ogre family now acts as gatekeepers, handling any intruders themselves. Rhea poses confidently, with her long white hair flowing and a gentle smile amidst the bright green landscape. Rhea's legs are shown standing on a glowing symbol, as she proposes they train with gusto today.
A burst of radiant yellow and orange energy explodes from the ground. Meanwhile, at Rhea and Xian's house, Xian lies asleep on the sofa, covered by a green blanket. A close-up shows Xian sleeping peacefully, a subtle blush on his cheek. Xian's red eyes snap open in alarm, a heavy sound effect echoing his sudden awakening. Xian stands, looking unsettled as he is surrounded by a crimson glow. Xian looks distressed, experiencing a new, unfamiliar sensation as red energy swirls around him. Cassian, a dark-haired man with a bare chest and dark robes, sits on a throne under a blood-red sky with a crescent moon. Cassian, hooded and smirking, asks Xian if he is afraid of my other self. Xian stands alone and small on a dark platform, looking up at the distant Cassian on his throne, under the ominous red sky. Cassian, from his throne, looks down and asks Xian who he is.
Xian, looking distraught with wide red eyes, asks Cassian, "Who are you?" The scene repeats, Xian looking up at Cassian on the throne, asking, "Who are you?" Xian clutches his throat, crying, "Ugh," as dark tendrils of smoke emanate from him. Xian struggles as dark smoke chokes him, and Cassian from his throne declares such arrogance is unwise. Cassian smirks, noting Xian must instinctively sense his power with a single gesture. Xian, engulfed in red and dark energy, struggles and yells, "Ugh, don't be ridiculous." Xian clutches his chest in pain as Cassian scoffs at his pride despite his lack of strength. Xian looks startled, hearing Rhea's voice, and Cassian thinks, TCH, already back. Xian, looking disoriented, faces Cassian, who asks if he also hears Rhea's voice, then thinks, remember. A booming sound accompanies a visual of cracks spreading across a shattered red background. Rhea's voice asks Xian if he's hurt, believing his power control was perfect, as the red world shatters around him. Xian turns away from Cassian, thinking that Rhea is calling him. Cassian forcefully pushes Xian, declaring he is nothing more than an illusion that exists for him. Xian looks confused, thinking it strange how the being before him felt terrifying moments ago. Rhea's voice urges Xian to wake up, wondering what she'd do without him, while Xian internally thinks he's no longer afraid and wonders why. Cian, with glowing red eyes, smirks, realizing the illusion is not on his side. Cian delivers a powerful kick to Cassian, sending him flying backward. Cassian is flung through the red illusion, which shatters around him, as Cian stands victorious. Cyan looks startled as red glass shards crumble around him, revealing a normal background. Cyan jolts awake in bed, his red eyes wide and startled by a bright flash of light. Rhea, in chibi form, expresses worry as Cyan's eyes open, relieved that he's finally awake after his sudden awakening. Rhea leans in, her expression concerned, observing Cyan's sweat and asking if he had a nightmare. Cyan looks away, his red eyes thoughtful and distant, as if still processing something. Rhea gently touches Cyan's cheek with a soft, rustling sound, making him question her actions as she internally confirms her thoughts. Cyan, kneeling on the sofa, embraces Rhea with a light tap, as Rhea thinks that he can't be without her. Rhea cradles Cyan, who has his head resting on her shoulder, providing comfort. Cyan looks contemplative, his red eyes downcast, thinking that he sensed no benevolence from the being in his dream. A mysterious figure engulfed in red energy is depicted as the pure evil that triggers human fear itself. Cyan looks distressed, contemplating that the being somehow had a face resembling his own. The shadowy, hooded figure with glowing red eyes smirks, further emphasizing the unsettling resemblance to Cyan. Cyan's red eyes are wide with confusion and unease as he wonders what on earth that being was. Cyan embraces Rhea, questioning why the being called him his double with a pressing sound, then asks if she was teasing him. Rhea looks sternly at Cyan, who is still holding her arm, indicating her displeasure. Cyan looks surprised and a little alarmed by Rhea's intense gaze. Rhea angrily scolds Cyan for suggesting she meet that human and for his prank while he was unconscious, expressing how worried she was. Rhea firmly tells Cyan that her personal life is none of his concern, making him look startled and then question, "Someone else?" Cyan grabs Rhea's hand with a tap, demanding to know if there's another man besides Hex. Cyan gently touches Rhea's face with a soft rustling sound, asking her to look at him. Cyan holds Rhea's hand and face, earnestly declaring that he is no longer a child. Cyan's hands are shown, one holding Rhea's with a soft rustling sound, as he states he is taller and has bigger hands now. Cyan looks at Rhea with a focused, intense expression, emphasizing his words. Rhea looks up at Cyan, who still holds her face, with a thoughtful expression. Rhea playfully shoves a chibi Cyan away with an "ugh" sound, sending him reeling. Rhea laughs, asking Cyan if he thought she was dating Hex after his strange talk, while Cyan remains silent, looking away. Rhea thinks to herself that Hex would probably be annoyed, while Cyan, looking up, questions, "Annoyed?" Rhea smiles sweetly, revealing that Hex is a devoted husband. Cyan looks surprised, repeating, "devoted husband, remarkable," as Rhea's words about Hex's 80 years of loyalty echo. A chibi Rhea, with a knowing look, asks a flustered chibi Cyan if he understands now. Cyan thinks he understands now that Rhea and Hex are simply friends, admitting he didn't even know Hex was married. A chibi Rhea sternly scolds a chibi Cyan for jumping to conclusions, getting angry, and throwing a tantrum, asking if he thinks she's easy, to which he tries to deny it. Rhea gently pats Cyan's head with a light tap, asking if he was lonely because she left him alone all this time. Rhea lovingly pokes Cyan's cheek with a petting sound, promising that she will never abandon him. Cyan smiles, while Rhea reassures him that she won't abandon him until he grows up, and that he remains more important to her even if she meets someone else. Rhea smiles warmly, telling Cyan not to be anxious. Chibi Cyan and Rhea share a tender moment, with Cyan blushing as he holds her hands. Cyan embraces Rhea with a squeeze, asking, "Really?" To which Rhea affirms, "Yes, really." Cyan leans into Rhea, thinking he has been short-sighted and lacks much in her eyes. Rhea cradles Cyan, who says he will earn money and become stronger, while Rhea muses that puberty has finally arrived, and he's still talking in riddles. Rhea gently pats Cyan's chest, telling him that all misunderstandings are cleared and they should eat the cake she bought for him. Cian smiles brightly, inviting everyone to talk freely as he politely steps aside. Cyan observes Rhea and Hex at a table laden with food, appearing happy with the arrangements. Rhea and Hex, the brown-haired man with a scar, both look surprised, wondering what on earth is happening. Chibi Rhea and Hex react with wide-eyed surprise, wondering what is happening, with a house in the background and promotional text. Hex, the brown-haired man with a scar, looks concerned as he addresses Rhea. Hex turns away, expressing his disbelief that Cian cooked for him, while a woman with purple hair and glasses wonders why Cian is acting this way. Rhea tells Cian that Hex wants to come over tomorrow, asking for his opinion, as Cian sits on the sofa. Cyan smiles, responding that Hex is Rhea's closest friend, agreeing to the visit. Cyan confidently tells Rhea to let Hex come, stating there's no reason to dislike him now that he knows he isn't an enemy, making Rhea look surprised. Hex nervously asks if Cian poisoned the food with a thud, to which Rhea casually replies he's immune to most poisons, prompting Hex to call her cold-hearted as ever. Rhea blushes and smiles, noting Cian's strange change of attitude towards Hex, then thinking she can now use Hex as an excuse during training with a soft rustling sound.
Rhea encourages Hex to try the cookies, proudly mentioning that Cyan made them. Under a bright full moon, the Chibi Hex realizes the late hour and decides it's time to depart from the house. Rhea is impressed by Hex leaving alone, then muses on how close he and Cian have grown. Rhea wonders if Cian has finally accepted Hex, as Cian modestly states he didn't accomplish everything on his own. Cian, looking flustered, explains he wouldn't know how to bake without Rhea's guidance and ingredients. Hex looks utterly surprised by Cyan's unexpected words. Rhea looks surprised and acknowledges that it is all thanks to her master. Rhea covers her mouth, thinking Cyan's words are embarrassing, while Hex reacts calmly, stating he understands. Hex playfully restrains Cian, who exclaims, "Gah!" and angrily declares he will make Hex eat his cooking someday. Hex holds Cyan's head, beginning to explain the qualities of a real man, while Cian looks frustrated.
Hex gives a confident thumbs up, asserting that a real man should know how to cook for the teacher he loves. Hex bids Rhea and Cian goodbye, stating he'll see her tomorrow, leaving a flustered Rhea and a surprised Cian. Hex seriously asks if Rhea heard, then reveals he secured Cian's permission to visit again tomorrow. Rhea is shocked, exclaiming, "What?" as Cian smugly agrees Hex can visit daily, claiming it's for Rhea's convenience. Cyan smiles, stating this arrangement spares Rhea trouble and asks for her confirmation, which prompts an enraged Chibi Rhea to yell at him as a little brat. Cyan looks heartbroken, pleading with Rhea not to leave and to stay with him. Rhea angrily confronts Cian, demanding to know who allowed him to leave her alone to meet that guy. A flustered Chibi Rhea realizes it was all a scheme to send Hex away. Meanwhile, a Chibi Hex waves goodbye happily under the moon, and a Chibi Cian also waves goodbye with a soft tap sounding. Cyan holds Rhea close, earnestly asking if he was a good boy today, making Rhea look surprised, with a soft tap sounding. Cian smiles smugly, promising to cook something delicious for both of them again tomorrow. A brown-haired woman with blue eyes flirts with Cian, declaring this won't do with a knowing smile. Rhea sighs dramatically, turning away in exasperation, while Cyan stands nearby, looking expectant. Cyan looks serious and contemplative in his dark attire. A bustling market street teems with people, as voices praise a famous restaurant and the amazing-looking food. Rhea questions their presence, but Cyan explains it's a fun town festival, an event that only occurs on special days. Rhea suggests they spend time and make memories, as Cian has been busy hosting guests, making him ponder the word memories. As Rhea and Cian walk through the festival, Cian looks startled when a shadowy figure loudly praises someone named Kay. A brown-haired woman praises the blonde man's dagger skills, promising to treasure her bunny doll, while he humbly dismisses her compliments. Rhea giggles softly as Cian, looking at the celebrating couple, questions what is so good about their display. Rhea smiles, thinking to let them enjoy themselves, while Cyan, looking annoyed and surprised, observes the scene. Cian looks distressed, asking, "Wait a second, where are you going?" as Chibi Ray walks off into the distance. Rhea looks surprised and excited as an announcement declares a winner for the first time in a year, and the Chibi crowd yells "ooh" with a thump sounding. A voice urgently calls out, "Rhea, Rhea," as her feet are shown, with a soft tap sounding. Cyan smiles, proudly presenting Rhea with a black cat doll, explaining it's a substitute for the unavailable rabbit dolls. Rhea smiles holding the cat doll, inwardly clarifying that she was referring to new couples in love. Rhea, holding the cat doll, wonders if Cyan misunderstood her, questioning her perceived age and noting she has lived for over 100 years. Cyan asks Rhea about her expression, wondering if she dislikes the cat doll, while Rhea internally fears hurting his feelings. Rhea emphatically denies disliking the cat doll, assuring Cyan that it is really soft and nice. Rhea smiles brightly and thanks Cyan for the cat doll. Cyan's face shows a clear expression of surprise. Rhea tells Chibi Cyan he'll sleep with the doll nightly, and he reluctantly agrees, making Rhea internally relieved she navigated the situation safely. Rhea looks confused, internally realizing that the situation isn't what she initially intended. Rhea's intense gaze focuses on something specific as she exclaims, "There!" Rhea enthusiastically suggests they try something new, causing a startled Cyan to exclaim. As he reaches out, a vibrant, sunny outdoor scene displays festive banners across charming buildings. A flustered Cyan instructs Rhea to place her feet and to remember to face and greet each other, emphasizing good manners. Cyan's hand is shown placed on Rhea's waist as he instructs her to do the same with her partner. Rhea and Cyan dance together, her dress swirling gracefully as they both appear joyful. Cyan instructs Rhea to face him again after their dance turn, as they gaze at each other. Rhea smiles, asking if dancing is easier than Cyan expected, while a blushing Cyan responds with a silent, drawn-out "ugh" as he looks away. Rhea and Cyan dance together, with Cyan silently agreeing to Rhea's unvoiced thoughts. Cyan dances with the brown-haired woman, appearing surprised and uncomfortable as a soft swish and clank sound. The brown-haired woman smiles sweetly at Cyan, her eyes glowing yellow. Cyan looks away from the brown-haired woman with a hesitant expression. Cyan thinks to himself about a partner switch. Rhea winks encouragingly, telling Cyan to do your best. Cyan's eyes glow red, and he looks intensely serious, expressing his shock. Rhea dances happily with the brown-haired man from the festival, while Cyan, also dancing, observes them in the crowded festival square. Rhea looks distressed, questioning, "What the? That kid?" The brown-haired woman asks Cyan why he stopped dancing, reminding him they were just dancing well together. Cyan smirks, thinking he'll cook something delicious for them tomorrow, while Rhea realizes Cyan's desire to keep her by his side. Rhea observes that Cyan has a very withdrawn personality, as a Chibi Cyan clings to Chibi Rhea's head, jokingly threatening anyone who comes closer. Rhea recalls her initial goal was to help Cyan grow into a good person and socialize him, as Cyan is shown politely assisting an old man. Cyan offers to carry Rhea's heavy items, but Rhea internally questions his sincerity, realizing he is solely focused on her. Rhea's hand trembles as she narrates her frustration that despite their outing for socialization training, it is not going as planned. Cyan and the brown-haired woman dance gracefully together. Rhea covers her eyes, wondering if socializing is still too much for Cyan, when a man asks for her attention. The well-dressed man offers Rhea a dance, noting she might be without a partner. Cyan's eyes glow red as he internally questions his own actions. Cyan looks away from the brown-haired woman, pondering why Rhea switched partners. Cyan looks surprised and questions the situation. Cyan recognizes the man's posture, realizing he is asking Rhea for a dance. Cyan looks up in sudden realization, with a clear sound of gasp. Cyan abruptly pulls away from the brown-haired woman, loudly rejecting her. Cyan emphatically rejects the brown-haired woman, as Rhea looks on with a wistful expression, thinking about the misunderstanding. Cyan urgently grabs Rhea's arm, yelling, "No," as he pulls her away from the man. Cyan passionately declares that Rhea's partner is him, shocking both Rhea and the brown-haired man. Cyan looks dejected, observing the brown-haired woman from the festival standing alone in the background. Cyan imagines Rhea's eyes scolding him for abandoning his partner. Cyan looks down in thought, wondering if Rhea's gaze also suggests it's none of his business who she dances with. Rhea gently places her hand on Cyan's arm, smiling as she tells the brown-haired man she already has a partner. Cyan looks surprised by Rhea's declaration. The brown-haired man smiles, understanding the situation. The brown-haired man walks away, leaving Rhea and Cyan together. Cyan expresses relief that the situation ended without trouble, then asks Rhea if the man intended to harm her. Rhea considers that refusing the man might have caused a scene, while a chibi Cyan wonders why she didn't simply state she was a noble. Rhea gently taps Cyan, tusk-sounding, telling him they are here to enjoy the festival, and he doesn't understand. Cyan looks down, realizing his misunderstanding. If Rhea's identity were revealed, people couldn't relax. A chibi Rhea snorts in amusement, while a chibi Cyan looks flustered, observing others enjoy a natural scene. Rhea laughs heartily, looking at the festive crowd. Cyan explains that the annual festival is a day for everyone to set aside their worries and enjoy themselves. Rhea smiles, stating she does not want to disturb the joyful atmosphere. Rhea wears a knowing smirk, determined to find Cyan a new dance partner so he can mingle. Cyan blushes slightly, thinking this day is perfect for mingling with new people. A chibi Cyan frantically calls out to chibi Rhea, exclaiming her name. Rhea angrily grabs Cyan's face, scolding him for abandoning his dance partner, but he internally denies it. Rhea holds Cyan's face, telling him to look. The brown-haired man and the brown-haired woman from the festival dance cheerfully together with a giggle. Chibi Rhea and chibi Cyan look confused, with Cyan asking, "Huh?" Cyan nervously explains to Rhea that he was messing up the dance steps, so he allowed the man who wanted to dance with the brown-haired woman to switch partners. Cyan looks directly at Rhea, holding out his hand, and states that she is dancing. Rhea looks surprised, extending her hand towards a figure off-panel, with small marks indicating her astonishment. Rhea smiles warmly, eyes closed, and with a soft tap concedes with a sigh, "You win." Rhea's hands are gently clasped with Cyan's, as she thinks that perhaps this is enough socialization training for today, and she has no choice. Rhea and Cyan dance gracefully in the air amidst showering lights, and Cyan declares he'll teach her until she gets used to it. Cyan looks down with a subtle, pleased smile, his red eyes glowing in satisfaction. Rhea and Cyan continue to dance under a sparkling sky, with Rhea responding excitedly, "Yes," as other couples enjoy the festival. The scene transitions to a grand, richly decorated banquet hall at night. Inside the opulent hall, Ehrenheier Groden, a blond man in a white suit, greets an older gray-haired man in a red suit who is holding the hand of a brown-haired woman in a green dress. The gray-haired man asks if it isn't a wonderful banquet, and the brown-haired woman agrees it is truly magnificent. Ehrenheier Groden looks away thoughtfully, then politely excuses himself for a moment. Ehrenheier Groden stands on a balcony, gazing at the night sky, wondering if people genuinely find this banquet magnificent or merely dull and stuffy. Ehrenheier Groden's internal thoughts continue, lamenting that there isn't anything more interesting to do than this crap. Ehrenheier Groden leans contemplatively, looking serious and deep in thought. Ehrenheier Groden looks over his shoulder as a door creaks, then questions if anyone has heard about the dungeon in the Goldstrong Mountains. As footsteps sound, Ehrenheier Groden listens to two dark-haired men discussing the dungeon, one questioning if it wasn't conquered long ago, and the other confirming a rumor of a new boss. A shadowy, menacing figure with glowing purple eyes is shown as the conversation continues, describing a powerful energy felt by adventurers and a terrifying monster that has taken over as the new boss. Fireworks explode loudly in the night sky as Ehrenheier Groden watches from the balcony. Rhea and Cyan are seen dancing gracefully on a cobblestone street below as fireworks burst overhead. Rhea, with a radiant smile, looks up at the fireworks and remarks that the Lord must have spent money finding the display very pretty. Cyan looks at Rhea with red, glowing eyes and a soft smile, confirming, "It is." Rhea and Cyan continue their joyful dance on the street amidst the continuous explosion of fireworks. Ehrenheier Groden watches the fireworks, pondering the rumor of a new boss appearing in the dungeon. Ehrenheier Groden smiles, stating that the idea of a new boss sounds like fun, as fireworks light the sky, while a chibi witch character appears, thanking the reader. A charming two-story house with timber framing is shown under a bright, sunny sky. Rhea is startled by a sudden movement and looks surprised as Cyan calls her name, prompting her to question. Hmm? Cyan stands in a room, dressed in adventuring gear with a sword on his back, stating he wants to go on a trip with Hex for a few days. Rhea sits up on the couch, looking utterly shocked, and exclaims, "What?" As Cyan stands further back in his gear, the scene transitions to a vibrant green forest with the light sound of footsteps. Hex, a brown-haired man with a scar on his cheek, smiles and greets someone. "Oh, you're here?" Hex converses with Cyan, who is still in his adventuring gear, and Cyan responds hesitantly, "Yeah, well," as soft footsteps sound. Rhea is seen back on the couch, smiling broadly and giving a thumbs up, telling Cyan, "All right, go then," while Cyan's thought bubble indicates silent hesitation after her decisive approval. Hex walks alongside Cyan, who is equipped with his sword, thinking he thought Rhea would say no at least once, then asks Cyan if he can really handle it. Hex looks at Cyan, reminding him that he said it's his first time actually fighting monsters. Cyan looks away, contemplating if, even without achieving that, Rhea would still love whatever he gives her, then pauses in silent uncertainty. Cyan is shown in a close-up, eyes wide, looking startled and deeply worried. Cyan and Hex navigate through the forest, scaling a thick branch or path with rustling sounds. Rhea stands in a room, hand to her chin, looking thoughtful as her hair sways gently. Rhea stands at the entrance of a building, looking out as a rushing sound occurs, realizing with a sense of resignation they really left. Rhea's feet are shown as a quick movement occurs, and she resolves with determination, "I'll just train." Rhea sits calmly cross-legged on a couch, meditating with her eyes closed. Rhea continues to meditate, with her eyes closed, as narration states that, quote, "Training the sword of the mind begins with meditation." Rhea is shown meditating in an ethereal blue realm surrounded by glowing moons and swirling energy. Rhea meditates, with narration stating the need to expel every lingering memory and devil in my heart, accompanied by small panels showing her embracing someone and another obscured visual. The ethereal blue space with moons continues, filled with magical water-like sounds. Rhea meditates with intense blue energy swirling around her as narration declares she will achieve perfect composure that won't waver in any situation, marking the beginning of the real training with a powerful breath. Rhea's face is shown in a close-up, her blue eyes glowing intensely, signifying deep concentration and resolve. Rhea holds out her hand, and with a magical appearance sound, a glowing, ethereal sword materializes above it. Rhea stands, holding the glowing sword vertically, determined to master the sword of the mind. A close-up of a leg is shown, with narration stating that humans inevitably have anguish and weaknesses. Rhea is shown in a dark, ethereal realm, holding a glowing sword, as she hears pleading thoughts of, "Mom, don't go," and "Please don't leave, Mom." Rhea is enveloped by dark, swirling entities, with internal thoughts of someone threatening and others pleading, "No, stop, my daughter," and "Mom, where are you?" A close-up of Rhea's face shows her glowing blue eyes filled with distress, surrounded by dark, shadowy tendrils. Rhea stands engulfed in a powerful white light, holding a glowing sword, as red shards and energy fragments burst around her in the dark, starry space. Rhea, with wide blue eyes, looks distressed as she appears to wake up from the intense vision. Rhea collapses onto a plaid couch, letting out a soft gasp as she thinks, "Again." Rhea meditates in a blue ethereal realm filled with glowing moons, as narration states that her training is always interrupted by the sudden memories of her past life. Narration explains that these memories crash down on her suddenly like a disaster, as Rhea is seen in a different ethereal realm with a sword, surrounded by shadowy figures. Rhea, reclining on the couch, thinks that these memories, an existence beyond her control, make it hard to master the sword of the mind, and she needs to find a way, then wonders aloud if any cookies are left. Rhea sits on the couch, looking away and lost in thought as she quietly ponders. With a soft rustle, Rhea resolves to train in her usual spot. Rhea sits cross-legged on a patterned stone floor, meditating with blue energy swirling around her as a chibi Cyan sleeps in the background. Hex and Cyan observe from behind dense foliage, with several gray, wolf-like creatures with glowing red eyes lurking in the foreground. Cyan, running from several wolf-like creatures, exclaims, "Ack!" Ganging up all at once is cowardly, while a chibi Hex looks on, complaining, "Ouch, you brat!" Rhea continues to meditate on the stone floor, enveloped in a soft, ethereal blue glow. Hex praises the delicious taste of the food they are eating, noting its similarity to a street corner shop, while Cyan confirms he used that shop's food as a reference. A serene natural landscape is shown with tall, moss-covered rock formations under a bright blue sky, adorned with faint, glowing symbols. Rhea, looking calm and resolved, thinks that today is the day Cyan returns, with a soft rustle sound. Rhea thinks about cleaning the house, then a burst of light erupts from her hands as she prepares. Rhea sits alone at a small table in a dimly lit, blue-toned room, appearing deep in thought and troubled by Cyan's absence. Rhea looks sad and worried, wondering why Cyan isn't back yet. Rhea expresses concern with a soft clink, thinking, "Don't tell me, did something happen?" Rhea sits on a chair, shaking her head, reassuring herself that Hex is with Cyan and wouldn't let him get hurt. A close-up shows Rhea's gloved hands clenching, as she thinks she should have gone with them after all, accompanied by a soft clink sound. Cyan, dressed in adventuring gear, stands in a room, stating he wants to go on a trip with Hex for a few days, and narration reveals this is only the second time he has asked Rhea for something. Narration reveals Rhea's internal thoughts. If she stopped Cyan from doing what he wants, it would contradict her goal of helping him grow socially. Rhea sits on the couch while Cyan stands nearby, and Rhea thinks that she felt Cyan was depending on her too much, so she couldn't say no to him wanting to spend time with Hex. Rhea's leg is shown as she abruptly stands, thinking, "This won't do." Rhea resolves to go find Cyan herself, abruptly turning with a whoosh. Cyan, surprised, exclaims, "Ooh-ah," as he and Hex are startled by Rhea's sudden appearance. With a sudden boom sound,
Cyan, with a visible scar on his cheek, looks shocked as he questions, "Rhea?" Rhea, looking distressed, remarks on Cyan's clothes. Rhea angrily scolds Cyan and Hex for being late without contacting her, while Chibi Cyan and Hex look apologetic. Rhea asks about Cyan's appearance and if he got hurt, and Cyan explains it's from fighting monsters with Hex. Cyan smiles, telling Rhea he has something for her, as a glowing black portal opens beside him, and Rhea asks, "Something for me." The feet of Hex, Cyan, and Rhea are shown on a wooden floor, hinting at a gift exchange. Cyan grins, holding out a small, ornate pink box towards Rhea, with a soft smile. Rhea, looking surprised, receives the ornate pink box from Cyan, questioning, "Birthday?" Rhea's eyes widen in realization, as she thinks she completely forgot it's her birthday.
Rhea gently taps the ornate box with her fingers, looking thoughtful, with a tap sound. Hex, with Cyan beside him, remarks that Cyan is quite something. Hex narrates that Cyan never flinched, even when facing high-class demonic beasts, as Cyan is shown fighting a group of wolf-like creatures with magic scrolls. Cyan, with an intense expression, uses magic scrolls, shouting, "Ice Lance!" Windstorm. Ice lances and wind magic swirl around the wolf-like creatures, shattering them. Cyan effortlessly defeats the creatures, and the narration concludes he finished them off in an instant. Hex thinks he knew Cyan had first-rate swordsmanship, but honestly, he thought it would be too much for him alone. Hex praises Rhea for raising Cyan well, stating he fought so well that Hex wanted to take him as his disciple, then wonders where Rhea picked up such a kid. Rhea, distracted, replies that she is listening and that Cyan's skills are outstanding, as Hex asks if she is even listening. Hex wonders why Rhea is staring so hard at the present, then realizes with a shock that it might be something.
Hex, the brown-haired man, looks at Rhea and Cyan, asking if Rhea didn't even know it was her birthday. Rhea, with a sweat drop, thinks she must have lived too long, forgetting her own birthday. Hex looks down, thinking he keeps forgetting things, and is really hopeless. Hex and Cyan both look at Rhea, who has question marks above her head, indicating her confusion. Cyan, with fiery determination and glowing red eyes, declares they will have a birthday party.
Cyan and Hex are setting a table with food, and Cyan asks Hex to put a dish in a specific spot.
Hex asks Cian what he is currently making, and Cian replies, it must be something simple given the time. Hex tells Rhea, who is sitting at the table, that he will bring out more items, while Rhea remains silent in contemplation. Rhea suggests they don't need to go to such lengths, but Chibi Hex and Chibi Cian insist that the birthday person should stay still and enjoy everything they prepare. Rhea wonders why they seem more excited than she is, then decides to let them be since they want to.
Rhea's eyes look downcast as she thinks it's somehow embarrassing to admit her feelings. Rhea watches Hex and Cian bustling around for her birthday, feeling a warmth in her heart. Rhea smiles, reflecting that having a longtime friend like Hex and having Cian is a blessing. Rhea instructs Hex to open a drawer where Kaoliang liquor should be, and Hex excitedly exclaims its name. Cian scolds Rhea for skipping meals again, reminding her that he left plenty of food for her. Hex teases Rhea, asking if she was so lonely, while Rhea blushes and looks away, flustered. Hex jokingly asks Rhea why she didn't call him, commenting on the great sword saint's sentimentality, prompting Rhea to furiously scream, "Shut up," and send him flying with a powerful burst. A chibi Rhea, wearing boxing gloves, punches a battered chibi Hex, telling him to shut it, keep your mouth closed, as he cries out for Cian's help. Cian observes, thinking Hex is a stubborn tanker whose resilience makes him even more annoying. Cian, blushing slightly, touches his neck, lost in thought. Under a full moon, a thought reflects that the fun time has been a while. Hex gives a thumbs up, thanking Rhea for the kaolang and Cian for the delicious food. Hex playfully wishes Rhea a happy birthday, adding that she should call him if she feels lonely again, causing Rhea to angrily tell him to get out before she throws him out. Hex walks away, conceding that he might really be thrown out and is leaving, while Rhea quietly says goodbye. Rhea, in profile, blushes slightly as she thinks Hex has no filter. Cian smiles at Rhea, thinking it has been a while since it was just the two of them. Rhea stretches, yawning, and suggests they go to sleep as Cian stands by the door with a quick tap sound. Rhea tells Cian he must be tired from traveling and thanks him for the good birthday meal, as Cian remains silent in thought. Cian asks Rhea if she isn't going to open her present, and Rhea, surprised, questions, "Present?" A chibi Rhea appears, as Rhea realizes she missed the timing to open the ornate pink box on the table. Rhea picks up the pink box, humming as she contemplates which one to open. Rhea opens the box with a dull KKAK sound, looking surprised as she says, "This is." Inside the pink box are earrings and a hair ribbon, prompting Rhea to question if that's what they are. Cian explains to Rhea that the hair tie is because she previously mentioned her hair was a hassle. Cian gently touches Rhea's cheek, promising to celebrate her birthday every year with a dull KKAK sound. Cian smiles knowingly, thinking, as expected. Rhea looks on with wide, teary eyes, wearing the new earrings. Rhea thinks you say that, but... Cian and Rhea stand facing each other, in a softly lit, intimate setting. A glowing orb appears above Cian and Rhea, as Rhea's thoughts conclude that is probably you. Rhea holds the open box, smiling with closed eyes, thanking Cian and promising to wear both proudly. Cian's face blushes deeply, his eyes wide. Cian looks away slightly, responding, "Yes." Rhea smiles, wishing Cian good night. Cian looks at Rhea as she leaves, wishing her good night in return. Cian stands alone by the door with a tap sound, watching Rhea leave. Cian looks thoughtful, realizing how close he was earlier. Cian clutches his chest, thinking his heartbeat was so loud. Cian thinks he almost let his feelings slip. Cian looks down, clutching his chest, his face still flushed with a blush. Cian tenderly cups Rhea's face, reflecting on when his feelings for her deepened, while she holds the pink gift box. Cian recalls early memories of Rhea's kindness, his playful rejection of her hair ruffle, and how her presence alone brought him happiness. Under a luminous full moon, the dark-haired man reflects that his feelings changed at some point. The white-haired woman stands by a sparkling body of water, her long hair blowing, observed from a distance by the dark-haired man. A close-up of the white-haired woman's serene profile reveals a pensive expression against the sparkling night sky. Rhea playfully scolds the dark-haired man while vigorously drying his hair, reminding him to avoid catching a cold, as he playfully protests. The narrator reveals that the white-haired woman's gentle touch became an exciting sensation for the dark-haired man, whose face is flushed. The white-haired woman asks the dark-haired man if she should buy bread, and he agrees while they walk together in a bright outdoor setting. A close-up shows the dark-haired man holding a book or bag with a subtle expression of thoughtfulness. The dark-haired man's hand clenches in a determined gesture, reflecting an internal struggle. The dark-haired man smiles subtly, acknowledging that his initial happiness with her presence had transformed into something more possessive. The dark-haired man gently places a cloak over the white-haired woman's shoulders as they stand together under the starry night sky. Cian expresses concern that Rhea was lost in thought and didn't hear him call for dinner, and she acknowledges him with surprise. Cian gently touches Rhea's hair, remarking that the dawn is chilly, suggesting a tender moment. The dark-haired man asks why he is being stared at, then awkwardly fumbles for a response. Rhea smiles with closed eyes, feeling a warm affection and pride that the dark-haired boy she once knew has grown into a considerate young man. The dark-haired man looks away, his cheek visibly flushed with a subtle blush. Rhea walks towards the dark-haired man, who suggests they go inside, under a sparkling night sky. Cian reflects on his gratitude for Rhea, who raised him from a wild state, and his self-hatred for harboring impure, immoral feelings towards her. Cian quickly moves towards Rhea, reaching out to her arm, and softly calls her name. A close-up shows the white-haired woman with wide, surprised eyes, looking up at the dark-haired man. The dark-haired man, with glowing red eyes and surrounded by light, looks up with determination, suggesting they go together. Cian holds Rhea's hand as they walk away from a building, his thoughts revealing he tried to distance himself from her. A close-up of Cian and Rhea's clasped hands emphasizes Cian's growing desire to remain by her side. The dark-haired man clutches his chest, his gaze filled with fierce determination, vowing not to give up. A close-up shows the dark-haired man lying down, confessing his love for Rhea in his thoughts. The white-haired woman smiles serenely with closed eyes, radiating warmth and happiness. The dark-haired man looks enraged, his red eyes glowing as he vehemently denies the idea of love for a human, expressing disbelief. Cian, surrounded by chains and dark magic, recalls desiring Rhea's power for himself, stating he wanted her as a slave, not as an object of affection. The dark-haired man grimaces, expressing shock and pain at the realization that even a fragment of the evil god could love a human. The dark-haired man's hand clenches in grim determination, deciding there is no other choice. The dark-haired man stares intensely, his red eyes glowing with resolve as he decides to eliminate the soul. The dark-haired man is powerfully thrown back with a loud boom, urgently calling out Rhea's name. A close-up reveals the dark-haired man's intense, wide red eyes, his urgent thoughts abruptly cut short. The white-haired woman, startled, puts her hands to her head and scolds the dark-haired man for not knocking. Rhea, dressed in a blue dress, looks concerned, questioning why Cian appears ready for a fight and if something has happened. Cian avoids Rhea's question with a brief, evasive nothing, his expression hinting at internal turmoil. Rhea joyfully shows off her new outfit, specifically chosen to match the earrings Cian gave her, asking if they go well together. Cian is first shocked, then flustered and blushing, as Rhea presents her new outfit to him. Cian, flustered and seemingly angry, grabs Rhea's arm, criticizing her messy hair and calling her outfit terrible.
Rhea inwardly notes Cian's inappropriate grin as he awkwardly instructs her to sleep and avoid doing anything stupid before leaving. Rhea looks confused and slightly annoyed, wondering why Cian is acting so prickly. The dark-haired man stands alone, clutching his chest, his expression one of deep internal struggle. A close-up shows the dark-haired man with glowing red eyes, bewilderedly questioning his own sudden actions and wondering what just happened. The dark-haired man clutches his chest, confused and alarmed by his rapidly racing heartbeat. The white-haired woman, dressed in blue, looks concerned and repeats her earlier questions about Cian's confrontational expression, and if something happened. Rhea joyfully shows off her new outfit, specifically chosen to match the earrings Xian gave her, asking if they go well together. The dark-haired man covers his mouth, blushing profusely in extreme embarrassment. The dark-haired man leans back against a wall, frustratedly wondering if the white-haired woman has somehow affected him. The dark-haired man appears confused, questioning when he changed clothes and fell asleep.
Chibi Xian stretches, feeling stiff and wondering if he barely slept or slept poorly. Cyan quietly opens a door, a soft click sounding, while Rhea's white hair is visible in the foreground. Huh? Yeah. Rhea internally notes that Xian seems to be in a good mood today, questioning if it truly was Xian yesterday, while a chibi Xian looks confused. Rhea considers that Xian's mix of formal and informal speech makes it hard to be sure of his identity, visualizing him as a child threatening to kill and as an adult stating he's not a kid. Rhea holds Cyan's arm as he walks away, and he firmly declares he is no longer a child. Cyan looks contemplative, his red eyes reflecting a pensive mood against a floral backdrop. Cyan explains to Rhea that he felt he was relying on her too much and had planned to spend some time with Hex. Cyan, with his back to Rhea, begins to suggest he could help if she couldn't tie her hair well, but she interrupts by calling his name. Rhea leans in closer, asking Cyan if he truly thought she wouldn't know, surprising him into asking, "What?" Cyan's face flushes with distress as he questions how Rhea could have deceived him all this time. Cyan continues to look at Rhea with a mix of hurt and surprise, asking how she could deceive him, as she looks back with a slight smirk. A regal white-haired man with blue eyes and a sword is depicted against an ornate background, marking a significant narrative transition. Cyan looks bewildered, wondering what Rhea means and if she's truly figured out his feelings. Rhea smiles smugly, her blue eyes gleaming with a knowing expression. Rhea faces Cyan with a confident smile, rhetorically asking who else she could be referring to. Rhea chuckles with a knowing grin, declaring that she means the girl you've been seeing behind my back. Cyan looks utterly shocked and distressed as he confronts Rhea, exclaiming, "I knew it." Rhea stands over Cyan, who has dejectedly dropped to one knee with a thump sound, as she triumphantly states she knew it right away. Cyan covers his face, protesting that he isn't uptight and clueless, while a chibi Rhea in a thought bubble internally labels him really dense. Rhea walks away from Cyan, her footsteps sounding, demanding to know who the girl is and where he met her, but Cyan sighs, insisting there is no such misunderstanding or secret. Cyan looks distressed, asking Rhea if there's truly nothing, then questioning what on earth she could be hiding. Rhea casually states, "Oh, so you got dumped," as Cyan reacts in shock, nearly falling backward up the stairs with a thump sound. Cyan covers his face in frustration, declaring Rhea doesn't understand his feelings, while Rhea remarks that it's fine, the girl simply had no eye for quality. Rhea gently taps Cyan's shoulder, praising his true worth in cooking and swordsmanship, while he questions how she knows he possesses such qualities. Rhea smiles brightly, her blue eyes sparkling with happiness and satisfaction. Cyan looks over his shoulder at Rhea, remaining silent as he considers her words. Rhea enthusiastically claims Cyan's former partner threw away her luck, prompting Cyan to question why she's cheering about it. Rhea and Cyan walk up the stairs, footsteps sounding, as Cyan asks, "Like what?" and Rhea vaguely replies, "There just are." Cyan looks back over his shoulder with a slight smile, his red eyes reflecting the light. Rhea observes Cyan, thinking he's chasing something hard to grasp and impossible to pin down, yet something he absolutely doesn't want to give up on. Cyan looks confused, stating he doesn't understand Rhea's abstract words at all. Rhea looks at Cyan with a gentle expression, reflecting that hearing the almighty Cyan can't do something makes him seem kinda human. Rhea encourages Cyan that he'll figure it out someday, and he agrees, stating, "Yes, I think so too." Cyan and Rhea walk down the stairs together, with Cyan agreeing to her hopeful words as Rhea taps her foot softly. The scene transitions to a peaceful night, showcasing a building under a bright full moon and a sky full of stars. Rhea, with her hair tied up and arms crossed, admits something to another woman, her expression thoughtful. The woman with long white hair praises Rhea for her excellent hair tying skills, wondering how she learned so well from only seeing it a few times. Rhea touches her cheek, admitting she can't say anything, reflecting that she did mess up the hair tie yesterday. Rhea flinches slightly as she sees the black cat plushie, Choo Choo, sitting attentively on a chair nearby. A close-up shows Choo Choo, the black cat plushie, with big, intense yellow eyes staring intently. Rhea expresses that she's merely a little jealous of Xian's talent, but then questions why the doll feels like it's glaring at her, feeling guilty for no reason. Rhea sits on her bed, relieved she brought Choo Choo back, feeling less lonely with the plushie in her arms. In a flashback, Rhea is surprised by an announcement that after a year, they finally have a first-place winner. A bell ringing loudly. Xian, smiling, presents a black cat plushie to Rhea, explaining he brought it since they had no rabbit dolls. Xian hands Rhea the black cat plushie, and she realizes she has to name it, deciding on Choo Choo. Rhea hugs the Choo Choo plushie, thinking she hadn't planned to name it, but the name just slipped out. Of all names, that one, Chibi Rhea, holding Choo Choo, declares they have more important things to do right now. Rhea's hand reaches for a book and an envelope on a table, a soft rustle sounding. Rhea, with white hair and blue eyes, holds an ornate purple book, Dalcock sounding, her expression thoughtful. A pair of intricate red and gold earrings, revealed as the core of Agripac's, is displayed in a luminous purple setting, with text explaining there's a specific reason for their desire. Rhea holds the ornate book, a dark, smoky tendril curling from her head as she looks down, a SHWRR sound accompanying the strange phenomenon. Dark red-tinged memories or energy swirl around a black orb as a voice pleads, Ulkung sounding, "Dad, please don't hit me," and confesses, "I was wrong." The ornate red and gold earring is surrounded by swirling dark energy, with a powerful yak sound echoing in the scene. Dark smoke coils around the ornate earring, HWII sounding, as it glows with a subtle, contained power. The ornate red and gold earring radiates power, Okung sounding, as text explains its special ability and reveals Agripax is a beast feeding on black ether, leading to a close-up of a glowing-eyed cat-like creature with a red gem. Narration explains the Agripax core is valued as a jewel, but its true worth lies in temporarily sealing parts of bad memories belonging to the black ether, making it explosively popular. Rhea holds one of the ornate earrings, her expression serious, as a thought bubble reveals her intention for memory retrieval. Rhea's hand holds the earring, a wisp of dark smoke saruk, sounding as it emanates from the jewel against a dark background. The dark, red-tinged energy swirls, displaying a harsh memory. "If you did something wrong, you deserve a beating," Ulkung sounding. More dark energy reveals memories of being scolded. "That's what you get for doing something worth hitting for," and a desperate, apologetic act. "I'm sorry." The dark, swirling energy shows fragmented, anguished memories of someone pleading, KKUM tool sounding, "Please forgive me, Mom didn't," followed by thoughts of being abandoned and unwanted. Rhea clenches her hand to her head, KKEUK sounding, as narration explains that the longer absorbed memories stay, the more they become corrupted and distorted. Rhea clutches her head, Wichong sounding, looking distressed as she says, "Ugh," while text warns of fatal side effects when corrupted memories return to the user. Rhea touches her forehead, Hu sounding, looking pained as she reflects that even short-term memory storage is risky, and long-term would lead to madness. Rhea stands, radiating light and holding a sword over her chest, revealing she sealed memories into the core temporarily to master the sword mind's pinnacle in the meantime. Rhea's blue eyes gaze intensely as text reveals the maximum period to seal memories in a core is 100 days. Rhea's hand taps the ornate book, tak sounding, as she thinks the sword mind itself is an incomplete sword art with too many variables. Rhea lies on the floor, pulsak sounding, looking utterly exhausted as she views this extreme method as a kind of insurance. Rhea's eyes appear tired but determined as she explains, "This insurance is only for when it's truly necessary." Rhea wakes up in a dimly lit room, groaning UGHH in discomfort. Rhea lies on her bed, mumbling, "Ugh, Dad, I'm sorry," and "Please don't do this," while Cian stands over her, observing. Cian, with glowing red eyes, looks down intensely, his thoughts reflecting anger at someone. Acting all above your station, yet knowing how to crave good food. Two demonic figures, one with purple hair and horns, the other with darker hair and horns, stand amidst swirling dark energy, as one states, "Another damned twisted day." Cian's hand reaches out, SSEU wook sounding, with a determined expression on his face. The purple-haired demon reaches out with a glowing hand towards the viewer, smirking menacingly, his face partially obscured by hair. A disembodied hand with dark energy swirling around it orders, "Begone," as a HWAL ruck sound indicates a magical release or expulsion. Cian stands alone in a room with black, swirling energy around his outstretched left hand, glowing purple around him. Dark energy bursts around several demonic figures, PWAK, PWAK, Pyong Yok, and Pyong sounding, as they are violently attacked or dispelled. A promotional image offers recruitment for various positions and highlights other series, including The Possessed Villainess is Causing Trouble and The Cold Queen. A promotional image for Sirenscans.com displays Chapter 19, Growing the Seed of Evil, with a blonde knight and encourages readers to support their work directly on the website. Cian is shown again with dark, swirling energy around his left hand, illuminated by purple light in the room, mirroring his earlier display of power. Cian, with his red eyes glowing intensely, looks up, black energy swirling around him and emanating from his outstretched hand. Cian clenches his fist, GGWAK sounding, reflecting that his strength has returned considerably and his control has become proficient. Cian stands over Rhea, who's lying on a bed, SSWEOG sounding, wondering if all that's left for today is to absorb the black ether. Rhea's face is shown in a close-up, tears streaming from her eyes, Jurok sounding as she expresses a plea. Rhea, lying on the bed, trembles teal sounding as she pleads, "Don't do this, Dad." Cian looks intently at Rhea, Miam Chit sounding, his hand hovering near her as if paused. Cian grabs Rhea's hand, TTEOB sounding, and an intense light, SHWRR sounding, surrounds his body as he begins to emanate power. Cian leans over Rhea, holding her hand as she lies on the bed, his expression serious and concerned. Light energy streams upwards as text reveals this is a memory from Rhea's past life. Rhea, with blue eyes and white hair, appears in a flashback, thinking about her past life when she was in the 3rd grade of elementary school. A younger Rhea, with brown hair and a backpack, looks over her shoulder, appearing as a small child in elementary school. The younger Rhea walks with another brown-haired girl, feeling genuinely jealous and coveting the dolls hanging from her friends' backpacks. Close-ups of 2 cute animal dolls, a pink cat-like one and a green creature, illustrate the coveted items that Rhea's parents would never buy for her. A hand reaches for a wad of cash on a table, as text states that, eventually, Rhea made a, quote, bad choice. A younger Rhea looks shocked and distressed, Jeg-oog sounding, as a black plushie lies at her feet surrounded by dark blue light. An older man, Rhea's father, yells, Tifek sounding, "How dare you steal my money to buy this piece of trash?" At the kneeling young Rhea near the black plushie. Rhea's hands hold the black plushie, Choo-choo, which is now torn, Teal sounding, as she reflects that her first feeling of greed was brutally torn to shreds.
The agitated, dark-haired man declares that wrongdoers must face punishment. One hand firmly grasps another's wrist in a tense moment. The hooded, dark-haired man dismisses an entity as merely a ghost of a moldy old memory. The hooded, dark-haired man, with glowing red eyes, angrily challenges the other man for daring to touch him. A distressed black-haired girl, kneeling, demands to know who the intruder is and how they entered their home, as an unseen voice also questions the identity. The hooded, dark-haired man silences someone with a powerful gesture, causing both the agitated man and the black-haired girl to float in a blue magical void. The black-haired girl looks bewildered as the hooded, dark-haired man questions her distress over the ruined stuffed toy. The damaged black cat plushie, with visible stuffing, floats against a warm, glowing backdrop. The black cat plushie is now fully restored and appears perfect, radiating in a bright, sparkling light. The black-haired girl joyfully embraces the restored black cat plushie, affectionately calling it Choo Choo.
The black-haired girl thanks the muscular hooded dark-haired man, calling him Big Brother, as they stand under a starry sky. The hooded dark-haired man advises the black-haired girl not to cry over useless things again, to which she simply acknowledges. The black-haired girl's hand subtly tugs at the dark cloak of the hooded figure. The black-haired girl eagerly asks the serene hooded dark-haired man for his name, looking up at him expectantly. The hooded dark-haired man floats above, looking down gently at the black-haired girl reaching up amidst flowering plants under a crescent moon. The hooded dark-haired man with red eyes and a confident smirk reveals his name is Cassian. Cyan, the brown-haired man, opens his eyes and begins to stir from sleep in a brightly lit room. Cyan sits up in bed, appearing dazed and lost in thought after waking. Cyan, sitting on his bed, contemplates what to prepare for breakfast. Cyan's red eyes widen in surprise as he questions what he is holding, muttering, "Hand?" Rhea, the white-haired woman, and Cyan are peacefully asleep on a bed, holding hands. Cyan wakes in utter shock and panic, realizing Rhea is asleep in his room and they are holding hands. The charming house stands serenely under a bright blue sky on a clear day. Cyan looks closely at his surroundings with a worried and stressed expression. Cyan stares in horror, realizing that he is not in his own room, with Rhea still sleeping nearby. Cyan frantically moves to leave, horrified by the realization he woke up in Rhea's room. Cyan, with intense red eyes, looks troubled and contemplative after his hasty exit. Rhea sleeps soundly, gently cradling the black cat plushie Choo Choo close to her. Cyan stands alone, casting a quick glance back over his shoulder against a sparkling blue floral background. Cyan reflects that he is the one who should always be thankful and sorry to Rhea. Cyan leans against the doorframe, relieved he managed to escape without waking Rhea. Cyan clutches his chest in distress, expressing how worried sick he was, as a red, heart-like energy pulsates. Cyan looks upwards, eyes closed, in a moment of quiet, emotional exhaustion. The pensive Cyan questions when he changed clothes before sleeping and notes a recurring sense of déjà vu. Cyan's thoughts reveal this isn't the first time he's woken up next to Rhea, holding her hand, despite falling asleep in his own room. The dejected Cyan sits on the floor, sighing and wondering how he can face Rhea if this keeps happening. Cyan, looking worried, wonders if he spoke nonsense or did anything strange in his sleep. A glowing blue orb sits on an ornate stand, emitting a soft light. Rhea, still in bed, is disturbed from her deep sleep by a glowing orb, wondering who is waking her. Rhea, visibly annoyed by the insistent buzz of the glowing orb, has an anger mark on her head. Rhea angrily declares she's awake, demanding to know who dared disturb her so early, and prepares to confront them. Rhea, annoyed, tells Hex that he woke her up, as he questions if she's still sleeping with the sun high in the sky. Hex comments that other swordsmen would lament if they knew how lazy the strongest sword saint truly was. Chibi Rhea angrily retorts that the sun isn't high in the sky, as it's not even 8 a.m. Rhea, sitting impatiently, tells Hex to state his business, while he remarks on her coldness and brings up her previous request about the young master. Rhea recognizes the young master, while Hex privately decides to quickly deliver bad news to Aaron's father, as per her request. Hex recounts how Aaron's family readily accepted the Sword Saint's request for him to be a disciple, seemingly eager for them to take him. Rhea, with a hint of concern, asks what the small problem is after Hex mentions it. Rhea sits at the table, her long white hair flowing down her back as she faces away from the glowing orb. Rhea's blue eyes are wide with an expression of shock and distress, questioning what? The grand building, resembling a charming house with a unique roof design, stands brightly under a sunny sky near snowy mountains. Ehrenheier Groden is seated at a table, glowing with light, flanked by two dark-haired men in armor who are also eating. Ehrenheier Groden enjoys his meal with a confident smirk, while a frantic Chibi Rhea shouts in distress, realizing that Ehrenheier has disappeared. Ehrenheier Groden dines with his companions, as a white-haired man and a dark-haired man report their failure to find the dungeon despite scouring the entire mountain. One of the dark-haired men informs Ehrenheier Groden that he even received a message from Hex about becoming the Sword Saint's disciple. But Ehrenheier Groden firmly rejects the idea, thump-sounding. With glowing purple eyes, Ehrenheier Groden defiantly states that he will never give up on his own aspirations. Surrounded by ornate patterns and flowers, Ehrenheier Groden declares that he is destined to become the next Sword Saint, no matter what other title is attached to him. With sparkling light around him, Ehrenheier Groden confidently proclaims himself as the great Ehrenheimer L. Groden, whose ambitions are undeniable. Ehrenheier Groden stands in thought, surrounded by curious onlookers, while a dark-haired man in a separate panel resigns himself to Ehrenheier Groden's peculiar thinking, murmur-sounding. Ehrenheier Groden is depicted in 2 panels, learning swordsmanship from countless people, but always ends up stronger than his teachers. Ehrenheier Groden questions if the dungeon with the twin-head Cyclops boss wasn't cleared long ago, as 2 dark-haired men walk by, thump-thump sounding, and one reveals a rumor of a new boss appearing. A shadowy, purple glowing figure with intense eyes is revealed as a terrifying monster, and the new dungeon boss as adventurers feel an intense energy, ooh, sounding. Ehrenheier Groden smiles confidently, deciding that in this case, it is only right not to waste his time. Ehrenheier Groden asserts there is an order to things, stating that his dungeon expedition takes priority over becoming the Sword Saint's disciple, thump-sounding. 2 dark-haired men and a white-haired man are distressed, expressing how tiresome and absurd their social life is, given Ehrenheier Groden's priorities regarding a dungeon expedition over the Sword Saint's request. A dark-haired man in armor sighs, "Ha!" sounding, acknowledging Ehrenheier Groden as young master and implicitly accepting his decision. The dark-haired man declares he will obey Ehrenheier Groden's command from outside the grand building, under a bright, sunny sky. Sunlight bathes the side of the charming house, signifying a transition in the narrative to a new time and scene. Rhea asks Cyan what he's doing, calling him Cyan as he stands by the counter, responding that he was about to boil some tea. Rhea stands with her arms crossed, her long white hair flowing, looking serious, as if preparing for a difficult conversation. Rhea and Cyan sit opposite each other at a wooden table, tea served, clink sounding, indicating the start of their discussion. Rhea sips her tea, slurp sounding, while Cyan watches her, emphasizing the gravity of their conversation. Cyan looks distressed, questioning the concept of a disciple, and asking when this before long will happen and who this person is. Rhea looks at Cyan with concerned blue eyes, admitting she doesn't know exactly when the disciple will arrive. Rhea mentions there is one problem, asking Cyan what it is, building suspense for the revelation. Rhea, facing the glowing orb, learns that the problem is about Ehrenheimer, who has left his house with no known return date. Rhea, holding a teacup, sighs, ha sounding, recalling that the news first sounded ridiculous, but still expects Ehrenheimer to come eventually. Rhea taps her teacup, thumb sounding, and states she can tell Cyan what kind of kid Ehrenheimer is. A smiling Ehrenheier Groden is shown in a flashback, looking at an open book, as Rhea thinks this is how he was described in the original story. Rhea tells Cyan that he'll be able to get along with the new people too. Cyan loudly rejects the idea of getting along with strangers, smash sounding, while Rhea calls out Cyan to him. Rhea calls out Cyan to Cyan, who flinches, flinch sounding, and responds with a frustrated ugh. Cyan asserts that whether he gets along with others is up to him and tells Rhea not to order him around, smash sounding, while Rhea calls out Cyan to him again, whoosh sounding. Rhea holds her head, thinking she expected Cyan to hate it, but still wishes they could get along. Rhea wonders if wishing for them to get along is asking too much, as the sunny house transitions the scene to a pensive moment. The scene shifts to a dungeon-like cave entrance with a glowing blue orb, hinting at Ehrenheier Groden's expedition. Rhea runs with powerful strides through a rocky landscape, swoosh and whoosh sounding, showing her active movement. A large, snarling, wolf-like creature and a small black cat creature with tusks stand together, growl sounding, likely guarding the dungeon. Rhea stands on a circular stone platform, facing various monsters including small goblin-like creatures and a snake-like creature deep within the dungeon. Rhea thinks she feels like the dungeon boss while guarding its entrance, and then considers her pure energy, putting Cyan's matter aside for now.
Rhea stretches her arms up, sensing a pure energy and anticipating her sword heart training will go well. Whoosh! Sounding. Rhea smiles broadly, enjoying a pure energy that clears her head and drives away all worries or concerns. Rhea's blue eyes sparkle with pure energy, reflecting her newfound clarity and happiness. Rhea grimaces in anger, whoosh sounding, questioning the source of a buzzkill noise that interrupts her peaceful moment. Ehrenheier Groden shouts, HAAAP, amidst intense light, likely in the heat of battle. Ehrenheier Groden leaps through the air, striking a large greenskin monster with his sword, thump-thump sounding, as other monsters react with a chink sound. Ehrenheier Grodan stands over a defeated large monster, thinking that leaving the knights behind was worth it. Thump-thump sounding, with Rhea's hand visible in the foreground. Ehrenheier Grodan stands triumphantly, radiating light, having found what he sought, and vows to wipe them all out. Ehrenheier Grodan smirks with glowing purple eyes, grin sounding, confident in his discovery. Ehrenheier Grodan powerfully strikes a large green-skinned monster from above with his sword, clank sounding, showcasing his combat prowess.
The view swiftly passes through a rocky, weathered landscape, revealing a faint, powerful light in the background. The blond man swings his sword in a powerful attack, questioning, "You blocked my sword?" The blond man falls to one knee with a quick motion, looking surprised as he asks, "Who are you?" Rhea, with long white hair, holds her sword defensively, standing before a large, green-skinned man. The blond man gazes at Rhea, thinking she is beautiful, as if not of this world. The large, green-skinned man looks distressed as Rhea approaches him, asking if he is all right. Rhea gently applies a purple liquid to the large, green-skinned man's arm, telling him, "I'll take care of it, so rest over there." The blond man watches as purple liquid pours onto a stone altar from an unseen source. The blond man looks intensely at something, questioning if it could be the boss of this dungeon. Rhea, with white hair and blue eyes, looks pensive. Rhea observes a family of green-skinned creatures, including a baby and a small animal gathered together. The blond man angrily declares, "You wicked monster! I will cut you down." Rhea, with her long white hair flowing, moves swiftly, deflecting the blond man's sword in a blur of light. Ehrenheier Groden recoils in surprise or pain, gasping. The blond man falls to the ground with a soft thud sounding, thinking, "I couldn't see the movement." The blond man pats himself down, looking for wounds, realizing he needs a potion to heal. The blond man looks up in shock, his eyes wide. Rhea, standing over the blond man, explains that this land is not only inhabited by humans, and creatures of all kinds live under the hand of the creator god. Rhea holds her sword, explaining that monsters attack humans only because they were injured or starving, not out of malice, asking if he truly believes such actions stem from ill intent. Rhea, with her long white hair flowing, asserts that one must not judge the good or evil of others based solely on appearances, believing that even from a dried seed, a beautiful flower can bloom. The blond man looks confused, wondering if he was cut with the blade still in its sheath. Rhea looks at the blond man, offering advice as a senior, causing him to question, "Wait, did you just say senior?" Rhea and the blond man move quickly, surrounded by bright light and flowing energy. The blond man kneels on the ground, seemingly defeated, as Rhea stands before him. Rhea's white hair flows in the light as a soft, ethereal energy crackles. Rhea stands tall and proud, bathed in brilliant light, holding her sword. The blond man looks away, slightly blushing and seemingly flustered. A chibi version of the blond man looks distressed as a chibi Rhea tells him, "You are staring blankly again." The blond man's eyes glow purple with anger as he declares, "You wicked monster! How dare you try to bewitch me?" The blond man attacks, aiming his sword at Rhea, who stands with the large green-skinned man and other creatures behind her. Rhea, with an intense expression, defiantly tells him to stop trying to tempt me with your cursed words and appearance. Rhea takes a step forward, remarking, "Still not thinking straight, are you?" and declares, "In that case." The blond man looks surprised as a large, shadowy sword looms behind him. Rhea stands with her sword resting on the ground, challenging the blond man to try slaying me yourself. The blonde man reacts with shock, questioning, "What's your game? Pretending to surrender so you can strike me down?" A chibi Rhea teases a furious chibi blonde man, asking, "What's wrong? Not attacking." "Don't tell me you're scared." The blonde man charges forward, angrily declaring, "You brought this on yourself, monster." The blonde man admits that, as beasts instinctively recognize the stronger one, while Rhea, with her eyes glowing, recognizes, "I too can sense how strong this monster is." Two figures, one blonde and one with long flowing hair, clash violently under bright, streaking light. The blonde man, looking determined, confidently exclaims that the victory will be mine this time as well. A powerful force clashes with a hand gripping a sword, sending shockwaves. Rhea pushes the blonde man away with force, leaving him shocked and questioning, "Huh?" Rhea delivers a powerful upward strike, sending the blonde man flying backward through the air. The blonde man stumbles back, spitting blood, and questions, "WH-, what is this strength?" The blonde man looks pained, thinking, "No, if I lose consciousness now." Rhea calls out to everyone, suggesting it's time to get revenge on our intruder, while the blonde man, swaying, internally declares, "I'm going to." The blonde man falls to the ground with a soft thud sounding, as Rhea and the large, green-skinned man stand nearby. Rhea glows with an ominous purple light, her eyes shining as the green-skinned creatures behind her look frightened. The sun sets or rises over a rugged, mountainous landscape, casting a dramatic glow. The blonde man abruptly sits up in bed, his sword nearby, defiantly declaring, "I haven't been defeated yet, monster." The blonde man clutches his stomach in pain, lamenting his discomfort. The blonde man's thoughts drift to a blanket and the presence of a sword. The blonde man is seen waking up, as a voice confirms he is finally awake. Rhea, holding a broom, teases the blonde man about being unconscious for so long, while he questions why a monster would have a broom. Chibi Rhea sarcastically suggests the chibi blonde man needs more than just water for his head. The blonde man reacts with surprise as he sees his brightly glowing reflection. The blonde man is shocked to see his face covered in comical doodles, exclaiming in outrage. The chibi blonde man angrily demands to know what was done to his face, as Chibi Rhea clarifies that we did it. Rhea, standing with the large green-skinned man and other creatures, affirms her collective responsibility while the group appears to be cleaning. The blonde man is astonished by the notion of a monster cleaning, stating he has never heard of such a thing. Chibi Rhea and the green-skinned creatures happily sweep and clean, while the chibi blonde man kneels nearby, seemingly observing them. Rhea, with a confident swish, taunts Arenhire Groden, asking if he finds his doodled face humiliating, but calls it a light punishment for his actions. The chibi blonde man angrily protests that defacing his face is not light punishment, but Chibi Rhea insists it is, given he tried to annihilate a village for amusement, to which he retorts not to compare a dungeon to a real village. The blonde man questions Ray's true identity, never having encountered a boss monster that makes others clean. The blonde man observes the imperial crest on the hilt of Ray's sword, realizing its powerful significance. A silhouette depicts a kneeling figure before a monarch on a throne, highlighting a sword engraved with the imperial seal. Ray looks intently at the blonde man, implying the profound meaning of the imperial crest. The blonde man realizes Ray was feigning being a boss monster, acknowledging his many mistakes and her superior strength, yet defiantly resolves not to be tricked and proclaims that victory will be his. A chibi blonde man expresses profound disgrace and shame at having sunk so low. Ray remarks on the blonde man's stubbornness as she holds a cloth. Ray's boots step closer to the blonde man, emphasizing her presence. Ray leans towards the blonde man, offering to let him off. Ray gently cleans the blonde man's face, noting his talent and long-standing boredom. Ray advises the blonde man against flaunting his strength, explaining that true joy doesn't come from tormenting the weak. The blonde man, now looking refined, reflects on his past life of unbroken success. Walking a glowing golden path, the blonde man recalls how failure, fear, and the thrill of achievement became forgotten feelings. As he followed the path of a genius, his life seemed enviable to everyone else. However, the blonde man recalls that his outwardly successful life was, for him, a source of endless, suffocating boredom. Rhea looks at the blonde man, having seemingly conveyed her final message. Rhea smiles warmly, bathed in light and surrounded by ethereal blue flowers. The blonde man looks contemplative and serious after Rhea's words. Rhea, holding a potion, asks the blonde man if he can return home by himself. Rhea hands the blonde man a healing potion, instructing him to return before sundown as their hands meet. Rhea looks surprised as the blonde man admits he cannot go back alone. The blonde man blushes and appears hesitant to speak. The blonde man subtly smiles, gazing towards Rhea. Rhea and the blonde man share a tender moment, holding hands and looking intently at each other.